Well, happy Friday, everyone. You know what that means? Another live lawn care Q&A. My name is Ron Henry, and I'm here to help answer your lawn care questions. If this is the first time you've joined the live stream or you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome. Happy to have you here. The way this works is super simple. On your screen, you will see a chat box. In there, enter your question, comment, concern of the day, hopefully related to lawn care, but we take other comments and questions too. And I work through them in the order they come in. Sometimes I have the answer, sometimes I do not, but either way, we have an awesome time talking about lawn care. Well, guys, last week's event at Real Rollers was a ton of fun. Hopefully, a lot of you guys got to come out. I got to meet a lot of you guys, put names with faces, which is really cool. And yeah, I'll show some pictures of the event later on. But it was tons and tons of fun. Hopefully, you guys also had a great time too. Got to take the mowers out. You guys got to mow with some really cool equipment. And yeah, overall, I think the event was a big success. Looking forward to doing it again next year. All right, so let's see what we have in the live stream tonight. We got Jackie Bear starting it off. First of all, he says, Brother Ron, have an outstanding stream, sir. I appreciate that, Jackie. Thank you for the kind words and well wishes. I really do appreciate that. Next up, we got Vince, the Longineer, saying, what's going on? What's going on, Vince? Hopefully you're doing all right, sir. Hopefully all's going well with you in your world. And then Mr. VMH, Mr. Captain Crabgrass No More, saying, hey, Ron, happy Friday. What's going on, VMH? Thanks for coming to hang out in the live stream. And Longineer says, hanging out watching the Braves-Phillies game. Let's go Phillies. Well, yeah, if you're a Phillies fan, you're enjoying this game. I think it was the third inning? Third or fourth inning? Maybe it was the third inning where they hit, they had a four, I think they had a grand slam, and then they had a 2-run homer after that. So this game is probably a wrap, but we'll have to see. Next up, Vince has a question. He says, Ron, are you going to be at Equip this year? So yeah, so you guys don't know, Equip is, I think the show got broke, it was what GIE used to be. It got broken up into 2 different shows, I believe, and it's next week. I am not going to be there, Vince, because next week, again, we're going to have to see if we can work this out, but for some reason, in the last 2 years, the fall Black Belt clinic, when we do testing, and then also a clinic where we do lots of martial arts training and have a good time, is on the weekend too. So next week is going to be that. So I can't really skip that. Like literally there's like 2, actually it's not true. There's 4 Saturdays out of the year that I really can't miss. There are like the pre-tests and then the actual test. And the actual test is next Friday. So that's another thing for you guys. We're gonna have to decide if we're gonna do a live stream or not. If we are, it's gonna have to be Thursday evening. That's what's gonna have to be if we're gonna do one, or we're gonna skip next week. So once the show's over, you guys can drop your comments, your concerns, your vote in the chat as whether or not we skip next week or we do it earlier in the week, either Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe Wednesday. Might do a little bit earlier in the week. We'll have to see. But no, I won't make it, unfortunately. Maybe next year, depending on how things fall. But yeah, this year definitely is going to be a no-go, unfortunately. All right, next up is Joseph Magruk, who says, "Happy Friday, folks. Thanks for coming to hang out, Joseph. Appreciate you." And then next up is Jermaine Patarek. I think you're new, Jermaine. If you are new, first of all, welcome. I don't remember seeing your name before. He says, "Hi." And then Higgy Pop says, "Hey, Ron, happy Friday. Time for the weekend." Yeah, man, it is. It is time for the weekend. You know, the lawns are not looking as great, you know, as I would like this time of year, but, you know, nature's doing its thing. We had a lot of cold weather. We had a little bit of rainfall yesterday or the day before yesterday, a little bit of rain, which definitely helped things. But overall, if you guys want to see the state of the lawn, you can see the dormant stripe action. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys have already seen this, but this is taken today. You can see the color is quickly going out of the lawn. But the owlet is still laying that stripe action. Stripes will look good, just not as much color as I would like for this time of year, right? Such is life. All right, so guys, definitely get those questions queued up. We got Mike Harvey up next saying, "What's up, Ron? Missed the live stream last week. Looking forward to this week." Yeah, well, you're here, man. You're here. Glad that you were able to make it this week, Mike. It's always nice having you in the show. Then we got Dimitri saying, "Hello, Ron." And then we got Moro saying, "Hey, Ron, happy Friday." So yeah, so Moro, I was able to meet for the first time this past Saturday. He was at the show, at the Turf Park party, and I got a picture of him and his little guy. I think I've got a picture here of us together. It was the coolest thing ever, right? So like, you know, they're about to leave, and literally his son says, "Hey, man, can I take a picture with you?" I'm like, yeah, definitely. So this is us right before they're about to take off. And it was a great time. It was great meeting you guys. Thanks for coming to hang out. It was a fun time at the event. So definitely stay tuned, guys. I'm going to share some more pictures later on of people mowing, just having a great time. We played some cornhole, heartfelt fashion. Granger Hicks and I, you know, we got to team up on some cornhole. We had to lay down the law. I mean, granted, it was like the longest cornhole in the history of longest cornhole game in the history of cornhole games, but we were able to scratch out a win, which was good. All right, next up is Dimitri. He says, "Sell me your 1600. I can't do that, man. I can't. The 1600 serves a purpose. I can't sell the 1600. Like for mowing the front lawn, the 1600 is what I mainly use for that. So I can't get rid of it. I can't do that. It's like people say, "Sell me your True Cut." I can't do that. They all, even though they have the 3 mowers, they all serve different purposes. Like the outlet is mainly for the back lawn and swale area, flat areas. The 1600s for the slope, and then the True Cut is for all the, you know, cleanup areas like along the fence and all those tight spots where the bigger mowers can't fit. So if I sold you the 1600, the front lawn would look, you know, a lot worse. So I can't do that. I can't sell the 1600, man. I can't do that. Besides, you can pick them up. 1600s are fairly easy to find. I mean, they're not nearly as difficult as people might think. Now the True Cut C25, that's becoming more of a unicorn. Like I don't even know if you can easily find one of those brand new this year. That would be a challenge. But the 1600 is actually fairly easy to come by if you know where to look. You know to look for them. All right, Tutrilla says, "Happy Friday, everyone." So Tutrilla, and then Dimitri says, "I really enjoyed that Mo Fest at Real Rollers." Yeah, man, so it was a great time. So I had not the True Cut. I didn't bring the True Cut because I already had one. I took the 1600. I took the Owlet out there, and then also the mower behind me. We took this out. Just for everyone to be able to see it. So if you wanted to see the Jubilee Sterling in person, you got to see that, take pictures with it. We didn't mow with it because I don't have a battery and I'm probably never going to mow with the mower. But if you guys want to check out some of the pictures, we can show you guys some of that, what happened at the show. So let's start down. We'll start with these. We got Granger, his wife, Lee, and myself, and then another picture here, Alex. This was after the cornhole. This was later on in the evening, indoors. We were just hanging out, talking. The C27 doing some mowing. I'm not sure who was at the helm when this was going, but Andrew took an awesome picture of that. This is the general vibe of the crowd, so you can see the Greensmaster, the Owlet, and then in the background there, I had it on a blanket, was the Sterling mower. So everyone was having a great time just talking about that, chopping it up, hanging out about mowers, talking about mowers. And then finally, you can see this was Lee and another patron that was there. You can see that Andrew got the cornhole mid-air. Just our cornhole game we took indoors after everyone left. It was a great time. So it was lots and lots of fun. So hopefully you guys had fun, and hopefully Lee and the team at Real Rollers are going to do it again next year. Should be great. All right, next up is Tony Israel. Says, "Sup, Ron? Guess what?" What, Tony? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know what exactly happened. What's going on? Hopefully you have a comment later on and tells us what's up, because I don't know. Did you get a mower? You got a real mower? What happened? What'd you get? All right, next up is Lindrick Butler. He says, "Let's get ready to rumble. Pen, note, and Chick-fil-A lemonade class in session." Guys, so no lemonade tonight. Today I'm having to do water and apple juice. Ran out of lemonade. There's no lemonade in the household, so I was able to find a bottle of apple juice and use that. I can't tell you the last time I had apple juice. It's been a really long time, but I gotta have something to drink with my limonada, right? With my water, rather. Normally with my lemonade, but now it's, I guess, water and apple juice tonight. All right, next up is Jonathan Daza. He says, "Hey Ron, excited for tonight's show. I am day 6 into my turf type tall fescue reseeding project, and I'm already seeing the grass coming through. Should I do a light fert app soon? Spoon feeding during the process? Thanks." I would give it a little bit longer if it were me, Jonathan. I mean, you're only 6 days in. Wait till like week 2 or 3 before you consider introducing fertilizer. I mean, there's the seed has plenty of food to be able to germinate and begin rooting in nicely. I mean, if you want to, you can, but it's really not necessary. It's really your call. I would wait for the a couple of weeks into it before I would consider really going out and introducing even more fertilizer. Here's why, right? If you decide, let's say you went out and you were going to spray, you said spoon feeding, but let's say you were out to go out and you're going to do like a liquid app, right? And let's just say, I know you would never do this. I know you are a pro, it's not going to happen. But let's just say you went a little bit heavy and you ended up burning the young grass or doing something to injure it. It's if you feel super confident, you just got that itch, you want to scratch it, you want to get out there and spray, fine. But if it were me, I don't think that it's necessarily worth it. It's definitely not necessary. And a few weeks of waiting is what I would say before you really spray anything on young grass, because it's just not worth the risk. If you went too heavy on the fertilizer, you could damage it, and it'd be a big setback for your seeding project. So no need. If you didn't put the fertilizer down prior to seeding it, then just wait. Just give it some time. Again, a few weeks is what I would say, and then feel free to go after it. All right, next up is Tyrone Davis. He says, "What's up? What's going on, Tyrone? Thanks for coming to hang out in the live stream, sir." And then Dimitri says, "It was a pleasure to finally meet you." Likewise, man. Yeah, it was kind of funny, right? So people will come up to me and they'll be like, "Hey, Ron, what's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" I would just kind of pause and be like, "You got to tell me your name, man, because I don't know. Like, you know who I am, you know what I look like, but I don't know, I don't know you guys' name." I mean, Papa Moslow, I knew. Granger, I knew. Fairway Bermuda Lawn, Daryl Tunstall, I knew. There are a few others where I'd seen you guys before, so I knew. But for the most part, it was I didn't. There was like a lot of some people that knew me, but I didn't know them. But it was a great time. It was definitely a lot of fun. Everyone was really cool, so it was a good event. Jason Greenlee says, "Happy Friday, Ron. You have the dopest intro in the game and the most educational content." Thanks, sir. I appreciate that. The intro was, I mean, that took a while to put together, mainly to find the music for it. It took me a while to find a song that I really liked, and then I just took like content from over the years and cut it all together. And what you actually saw is like probably version 4 or 5 of what that was. So I did one and like, don't like it. Then I did another one, like, I didn't like that. So I did it was several versions to arrive at what you're looking at now. Since it's going to be around for a while, I want it to be as good as possible and for me to like it as much as possible. So I'm glad that you appreciate it, and thank you for the kind words on the content. There's tons of other great lawn care content on YouTube as well, but I am glad that you find the stuff that I put out to be useful. All right, Mike Harvey's up. Okay, our first problem of the evening. He says, "POA, ugh." So it begins, the annual battle. I sprayed prodiamine, prints up an image. I have a section of the yard where POA has started. Should I respray? Can I add certainty to that mixture? Upstate South Carolina. Yeah, so if you have an area where maybe your application wasn't exactly the way it didn't go as well, or you had some breakthrough, or you waited too long to spray and you have some POA breaking through. Yeah, I mean, would I spray again your prodiamine Prince Up and Image combo? Not necessarily. I wouldn't do that. If you want to wait till, if you want to give it another few months, late December, early January to do another app, that I would do. But if you sprayed last month, I wouldn't do another application just now. What I would do is kill the POA using Certainty. I mean, this is what I would recommend, because assuming that you mix it properly and you applied it, at proper rates, it should do a good job of preventing a lot of POA from showing up in your lawn. It sounds like the areas where you got some, maybe you're just a little bit late and germination already started. This fall, in my opinion, compared to last year, it's gotten cooler faster or earlier in the season than it was this time last year. So if you didn't get your pre-emergent out in early September, it's not surprising that you got a little bit of POA breakthrough, because remember, it's the only thing in that concoction that really is going to kill POA from a post-emergent standpoint is the Image, right? Princep, Prodiamine, they're both pre-emergents, and then Image has the ability to knock back POA. If you catch it fairly early. But if you've already got some growing and it's showing its ugly head, this will absolutely get it done. Certainty will get it done. Mix a bit of surfactant with it, and it's gonna smoke it. It's gonna knock it out. When you're doing this, make sure you use surfactant with it. That's the only thing I would tell you, Mike. If you don't already have some, get some surfactant. We carry some here at the Golf Course Lawn Source. If you go to shop and then Weed Killer. And then on the top shelf, you will find Certainty, which you may or may not already have, but then also Surfactant. This is a big, important part of making both either Certainty or Celsius work well together. If you need all three of them, where if you want to kind of get some Celsius for next year, if you just in case, we have a combo here, a kit that has Celsius, Certainty, the Surfactant, and marker dye. Saves you a bit of money instead of buying all of them individually. But if all you care about is POA, then Certainty and Surfactant will be your jam. This is what I would say. I would not do another pre-emergent application just yet. I would give it a few months before I would do another app of a Prodiamine Prince Up and Image, because again, if you just did it last month, it's in the soil. It is helping. Here's the thing: it would likely be worse had you not applied pre-emergent. But it's still too early. I would not do another application. I would just go out and just treat what broke through with post-emergent herbicide. And Certainty is what I would recommend for doing that. It's really, really good against POA. So sorry you're dealing with that, but you have a plan forward, right? All right, next up is Lindrick Butler. He says, any suggestions on a push self-propelled lawnmower? I'm not ready for the big boy toys. There's a couple different options. You've got, starting from like the Scott's mowers to the Fiskars. Earthwise makes a decent one. If I were going to get one now, I would probably go for the Earthwise, because I believe they are one of the few 7-blade reels. And then there's the what's the one that's the super expensive one? It's like $2,000. It's the Greens. The Greens push reel mower. The name is escaping me. One of you guys will drop it in the chat, I'm sure. But like, this guy is not a bad choice. Now, granted, I don't have direct experience with this one. I have experience with the predecessor to it, but that one was really good. So if it were me, I would try out this one, Lindrick Butler. So let's see, push reel mower options. So you've got the Scotts. Again, you got the Scotts, which I've owned and is a great mower. You've got the Fiskars, also a great option. But then the Earthwise, this guy's a 7-blade, which is kind of cool. And the people the viewers of mine that have gotten that have really enjoyed using it. So give that a shot. Again, you got the Fiskars, the Scotts, the Earthwise, and then there's the really expensive ones, like $2,000. Which, if you're gonna go spend that much, you may as well get a self-propelled one. So I would go with either the Scots or that Earthwise one. Either one of those are gonna be good. What that's gonna do for you, Lindrick, is it's gonna help you decide if reel mowing is really for you. What I would say is this: when you start using that mower, right, the cut's gonna be good. It's gonna be better than what you would get out of a rotary. But really what you're doing with that mower is deciding if getting out there a couple times a week is something that you can commit to on a regular basis. Now, I realize that we're late in the season and that you're probably not going to be having to mow that often now. But if you if wherever you are, I'm not sure where in the country you are, but if you're like South Georgia or Florida, where it's still hot out, or you have cool season grass where you still got a lot of mowing left, I would use the push reel mower as a way to decide, hey, can I do twice a week mowing and not hate doing this? And if that's the case where you're able to do that for a period of time and stick with it, then making the investment into a powered reel mower makes a lot more sense, because there is definitely a step up in quality of cut by going from a rotary to a push reel. And then there's another order of magnitude, a pretty substantial order of magnitude in quality of cut in going from a push reel mower to a powered reel mower. So, but you're doing it exactly right. You're doing it the way I did it, except that I didn't own a rotary. I didn't own a rotary mower. I had the push reel mower, and then I went to the powered reel mower. So good stuff. Hopefully that helps out. Check out that Earthwise. Also check out the Scotts and see if which of those work for you. They're all around the same price range. The Fiskars is probably the most pricey out of them, but I like the Scotts or that Earthwise the most of the ones that I've thrown out from a push reel mower perspective. All right, next up is Tavares Allen. He says, "Hey Ron, Turfplex is working amazing on my perennial ryegrass and Kentucky bluegrass lawn. Nice, like to hear that. I'm actually reel mowing every day since getting my California trimmer. My lawn is looking its best. I can't wait to flex on my neighbors for Halloween." That's a good point. For us in the Southeast, where we have warm season grass, where our lawn is starting to check out, for you guys with the cool season lawns, Halloween is like your 4th of July, right? You guys get to flex and be like, hey, when everyone comes by to trick or treat and get their candy, they're going to be walking on pristine turf that looks amazing, right? So I get it. That's not something that I really think about being in Georgia, because our lawn is looking kind of sickly and dying off. Not dying off, but it's halfway between going dormant and being active. It doesn't look its best. Whereas for you guys, I imagine, cool season grass is starting to really, really look nice this time of year. Glad to hear that Turfplex is working well for you, which is awesome. It's a great product, great fertilizer. It's a great all-in-one. Like if you could choose one liquid fert, Turfplex is not a bad option. You know what I mean? I was doing 901C this year and Nutrizolve and the carbon kit. So it's a bit more involved, but if you are looking for just a fertilizer that has a bit of irons, you can get a little green up in it, a little bit of micronutrients, Turfplex is not a bad choice. So I'm glad that you're getting good results with it. I will, fingers crossed for you on dominating for Halloween. I think you're gonna be able to pull it off, Tavares, because unless everyone else on your street is either watching the show or the real mowing and putting all the love and work into their lawn that you are, probably not. I think you're gonna have the advantage on them. So great stuff, man. Glad to hear the products are working well for you. Next up is Andrew Phillips. He says, "Hey Ron, looking forward to the discussion today. It's still green here in Fate, Texas. 91 degrees tomorrow." Wow. Yeah, it's nothing like that here in Georgia. It is 63. So the temps today it's 63 right now, and it was 45 this morning. So 45 degrees. The high was 73 degrees today. So if you are in Georgia and you have not yet applied your pre-emergent, you really, you're already behind the curve, but doing it now is still better than not doing it at all. I would still get your pre-emergent down. So we're well into some of the viewer earlier was saying what Mike was saying as far as POA, it's going to start really raging here if you don't have some pre-emergent in your lawn to help keep that away. All right, next. But I'm glad that you're getting, you're still getting the mow in Texas, Andrew. Hopefully you guys are getting rain, because we got rain again a few days ago, and before then it was a good, man, it was at least a month, maybe 6 weeks without any substantial rainfall. So hopefully you guys are getting some rain to go with all that heat, so your grass looks great. Latanja's in the house. What's going on, Latanja? So I also met Latanja and her friend at the turf event as well last Saturday. So it was great meeting you as well in person. Really cool. Hopefully, I saw you there trying out that True Cut. So hopefully, you got to play with it for a little bit, and maybe that's the next mower for you. But hopefully you had a great time. It was great putting, again, faces with names with faces. So it was a really, really good time. All right, next up is Ahmed Jones. He says, "Should I scalp my lawn now since Bermuda's going dormant?" I wouldn't. I guess really, what would you accomplish, or what are you trying to accomplish by scalping now? I wouldn't. I mean, I would maintain, if anything, I would just maintain the height of cut that you're at. Like if you look at my lawn that was mowed today, mowed this afternoon, it's being cut at the same height that I've been maintaining it at this year. So 3/4 of an inch thereabouts is where the lawn is at. And you know, that's what you're looking at right here. I'm not gonna lower it any more than that. There's not really a need to, and I'm definitely not gonna raise it. So what you're with the lawn the way it looks now, I've likely got another, I mean, assuming that the weather stays the way it is, right, to where it doesn't begin warming up here again, I've got a few more mows in this season before I go to like once every couple of weeks type mowing. You know what I mean? Because not much came off today. It's really more of a cleanup cut. I want to see if it would stripe, and it does. But yeah, as far as scalping now, there's not really a good. I would not do that because you got to think about it. Like you know, getting rid of a lot of the current height, a lot of the grass that you have now. If you live anywhere where it gets to be a lot colder than we are, you could potentially get some damage in the grass. So say we get like a hard freeze for a week or two. It doesn't happen in Georgia, but if you live somewhere where that has the potential to happen, having a little bit more grass, having a little bit of insulation, a little cushion there is not a bad thing. So no, I would not scalp now, Ahmed. I wouldn't substantially lower the height of cut. If anything, you can just maintain what you've been doing this season and then save the scalping until next year. What I tend to do as far as scalping in the spring is I do a pre-scalp in February, early February, and then I do my main scalp, the finishing up in March, because I have got a lot of lawn to cut, and it's just nicer to break it up into 2 sessions versus, you know, taking out all that material at once. And again, I don't really, you know, my lawn's at 3/4 of an inch. So it's not like it gets really tall. And last year, man, I'm trying to remember, it was maybe just under 30 bags, I think it was mid 20s to 30, somewhere in that area, of those Home Depot refuse bags of material that came out of the lawn. So it's a lot of stuff, a lot of grass that comes out of it. And you know, so that is next year. That's a good, you know, 4 months from now before I would even consider doing any of that. Right now, just let the lawn do its thing. If you want to put a cut on it, like at the same height to keep it looking nice and make it look nice and even, that's fine. But I would not substantially lower your height of cut this late in the season. There's really no benefit to it. There's only going to be only bad things can happen, especially if you live in a part of the country where it gets cold and stays very cold for a long period of time. So hope that helps, sir. I know you're looking forward, you want to get out there and do something, but scalping right now is not something that I would recommend. All right, next up is Talorn. He says, was great meeting you, Ron, and playing cornhole with you. Thanks, sir. It was great. Appreciate you coming to hang out. I joined the Real Club with the Alec Kensington. Is it spring yet? Yeah, man. So it was really, really cool. So I think, Talorn, I know who you are. I'll just call you Talorn. I don't know if you want people to know your name, but I know who you are. So thanks for coming to hang out. It was tons and tons of fun. We got to clap it up for the new Kensington that you got. I dig it. Very cool, man. Let me know once you get that first cut, that first mow done. You got my email address, and let me know how it does. I think you're really going to enjoy that mower, that setup. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun playing cornhole, and you know, the game went on and on and on forever. And we were able to finally pull out a win. It was Granger and I versus, it was Granger and myself versus Talorn and Eric. And here's the thing, I gotta tell you guys see Eric, you know, so Eric is, I don't have a picture of Eric. Eric is the taller of the two brothers at Real Rollers. You know, there's Andrew and Eric. And Eric is really, you know, you talk to him and he's really nice and really soft-spoken. Man, when you play cornhole with this guy, I mean, here's the thing, I am not one to really trash talk. Eric takes trash talking to a whole other level, tries to get inside your head. When we were at 20, you know, we were at 22, whatever they had, and I had, like, you know, the cornhole, I had the sandbag, I had to drop it on the board for the win. He was trying to get in my head. I had to throw it quickly because I mean he's really good at doing that. So whenever you see Eric and you think, oh, he's really nice and cool guy, don't play cornhole with him, man. The trash talk is strong with this one. The trash talk is strong with this one. Let me see if I got a picture of Eric here that I can show you guys. Yeah, here we go. So this is Eric. So you say he looks really nice, right? Just, you know, there with the shades on, showing everyone how to use the rotary scissors and everything. But tell you what, Don't get into a game of cornhole with this man. It's gets in your head. He tries to get in your head. So there you go. But yeah, it was fun, man. We have to do it again for sure. Because I know you live not too far from here, and if real rollers ever decide they want to have like a little private party and get together and play some cornhole, I'm down. We can do it. All right, next up is Dalvin Larry. He says, "Hey Ron, how often are you mowing these days? I'm down to once a week with minimal grass clippings coming off the lawn, but still very green though." Yeah, I'm about the same thing, Dalvin. About once a week is where I'm at now. Just really whenever I feel like it. Like I mowed, let me think. I mowed last week prior to the party, the turf park party. And then today I was looking at the lawn this morning, was drinking my coffee, sitting there looking at it. I was like, I mean, it looked fine, but the stripe actually was beginning to fall away. And I like my stripes. I want to try and maintain them as long as I could. And plus, I also wanted to try out the Allet. You guys may not realize this. Those of you that got to use the C27 at the turf party, you guys were the first ones to get to cut with it after the fresh sharpen. So I also wanted to try the mower out on the lawn and see how it did. And I gotta tell you, there's nothing like a real mower right after a fresh sharpening. Atlanta Real Mowers, Michael did an awesome job putting a grind on it. It cuts beautifully. And again, it's nothing like having a sharp mower to cut your grass with. It did an excellent job. So I'm down to once a week. Really, after the next time I'll probably stretch it out to a week and change, and then it'll just be whenever I feel like it, because the lawn is really slowing down. I want to say I had like four baskets, four of the grass catchers off the Allet came out of doing the entire back lawn, and I don't even let it fill all the way up because of the weight that it would put on the front of the mower. So four partially full, like maybe a third full baskets is what came out of the entire back lawn. So not much. And again, right at this time of year, Dalvin, I would say just do it whenever you feel like it. If you want to, if your lawn is still staying green, so if you want to continue mowing it on a regular basis once a week, that's a good cadence to keep it, maintain the color and not cut too much of the green off if it's still actively growing. But yeah, for me, right now it's just for fun. It really doesn't need it. I could stop mowing now, assuming the weather stays the way it is, and not mow again until next year if I wanted to, because the lawn is really slowed down. All right, next up is Latanja Moore. She says, "Happy Friday, Ron and Lawn Geeks." Thanks again, Latanja. Thanks for coming by and saying hi. And next up, we have Linda Hayes just saying good evening. Evening, Linda. So guys, question we had last week, now while I got mowers on the brain, we had a question last week around adjusting the turf rake, the fixed turf rake on the Allet reel mowers. So I did some digging around. I think someone in the live stream last week found it, but just in case they didn't, here is a video that Allet did. They show it on, I think it's on a Kensington, but it would apply also to the Sterling and other mowers as well. So if you were looking for a video on how to adjust like the comb, the fixed turf rake comb that's on, it's on the Sterling and also on a lot of their other reel mowers, this video will show you how they go about doing that. There might be some small tweaks, but that shows you the process of how to go about doing it. So in the event that you're looking for that, that was one of the things I had on my notes to be able to talk about this week, and so I am. All right, next up is Casey Martin. He says, "Hey Ron, good evening. Is there any benefit to applying humic acid over the fall and winter for Bermuda? I mean, it helps improve. It helps with the soil biology, but really, I wouldn't. There's not a ton of reason to do it, in my opinion. Once the lawn fully checks out, you could still do it now while it's actively growing, but while it's still got some color to it. But like say December, January timeframe, I would lay off and then reintroduce it starting in say February timeframe. So I'd give it. You still have some time when you can still do it if you want, but the benefits of it are less so versus whenever the lawn is active, like whenever the temperatures are higher and there's more microbial activity in the soil. The only thing that I would say really, if you still want to apply compost, if you want to apply biochar, like those are things that you can do because you're not really going to, like those just hang around. Like there's not really any negative to that. And if you've got humic acid where it's really inexpensive, like it's not an expensive product that you're using and you want to do it, fine. I'm not opposed to it, but it is better used whenever there's active microbial activity, like whenever the grass is actively growing. So I'd say if you want to lay off between December and January, again, if you're my neighbor, that's what I would tell you, and then reintroduce it again in in February when things are beginning to warm up again, you're on a warming trend, then I would say that makes more sense. It's not going to hurt anything, but you're not going to get the benefits of it versus waiting, when the temperatures are a little bit warmer. Now, if depends on where you are, Casey, because if you're in Florida, then the answer is yes. So I'd say if the grass is still actively growing, it's not dormant, or you live in a part of the country where it's warm for a lot of year round, like Florida, then you absolutely can do that. But as it gets cooler and cooler, like it is here in Georgia, I just like really November, December, January timeframe. If you want, you can, but you're not really going to see as much benefit from it as you would again when we're more on a warming trend, when there's more activity in the soil. All right, next up is Xavier 19 or Moro. He says, Ron, do you think the Alec Kensington is a good match to the TrueCut C27? They're different kind of mowers. I heard the roller has good traction for slopes. So I've never actually used the Kensington on a slope. I've used the Sterling. I've used this guy on a slope, and not this particular mower, but one like it on a slope, and it did fairly well. But as far as the Kensington, it's a lighter mower than the TrueCut, and I have no reason to think that it won't do well. Like you can't mow a slope with it. I don't know that it's going to be as good as the TrueCut, because the TrueCut has those rubber tires that rubberize those thick rubber tires, which are just do a better job of getting traction. They just bite into the turf better, and they're just going to perform better. Now, I would say the Kensington is going to do as good a job, or should have as good traction as like my greens mower or the Allet, the C27, the big one. It should work as good as any drum style or drum propelled mower. But a mower with either a rubberized drum like the C27 or rubber wheels like the TrueCut is going to have better traction, can perform better than a drum mower. And I'm talking about from my slope perspective, Moro. If you have like a lighter or more gentle slope, then it's not gonna there's less involved in it. But on a slope like mine, which is fairly, I would say it's extreme, but it's you got to plan your cut whenever you got to pay attention when you're cutting it. That's where a TrueCut, in my opinion, does a better job from a traction standpoint than a drum style mower. Kensington's a great mower. I want to say that it's still Allet's best selling mower. Like, because if you think about what you pay, like the cost versus what you get out of it, it's a good sweet spot. I think the Sterling is going to begin to take over as with time, because the Sterling is really, as far as a build quality and just the way build quality, the way it's put together, it's definitely a next step. It's the next phase as far as engineering from Allet. But the Kensington is a great mower. Allet doesn't really build bad mowers. So I would say that if you're got your eyes on a Kensington, by all means go for it. The Kensington, if I'm not mistaken, also supports like the interchangeable cartridge system, right? So that is the big thing. I would say whenever you compare something like the Kensington and the TrueCut, if you're comparing them strictly based on cut quality and stripe action, the Kensington is going to be better. Like because it's got a rear drum, it's going to stripe better than the C27. The benefits to it also has over the TrueCut are that it's got the interchangeable cartridge system. So if you want to turf rake, you can do that. If you want to dethatch with it, you can do that. So those are those benefits. The benefit to the TrueCut is the TrueCut's just built like a tank. I mean, the Kensington is well built too, but the TrueCut is like my neighbor. You guys don't know him, but the neighbor, the one that turned me on to TrueCuts, had one that was over 20 years old, and it was still running great, right? So as far as like a mower that's just built like an absolute tank that you're just going to hang on to, that you can run and run and run and run, TrueCuts are really hard to beat. As far as commercial or real mowers that I see on the backs of landscapers, I see TrueCuts. I don't really see anything else. I definitely don't see Greensmasters or John Deere's. And I don't see Allets, mainly because Allets just aren't as popular in the U.S. as the TrueCuts. But as far as a mower that can just take a lot of abuse and just keep running and is fairly maintenance free, the TrueCut is tough to beat. Good example, like with the TrueCut, it's all chain driven. So other than putting like a spray lube, like a micro motorcycle chain lube on it, and getting it sharpened once a year, it really doesn't take a lot of maintenance. Whereas with the outlets, mine included, like even my electric one, like changing the belts in those annually is a good idea, right? So there's more, not much more, but there are more wear items in the interchangeable cartridge mowers than there are in something like a True Cut. But if you don't really care about that, then the Kensington's is a great option. If it were me, between those two, I'd lean more towards the Kensington if it were me, because not because of necessarily the cut quality so much, but because the interchangeable cartridge system, if you're really wanting to do everything you can to get the best looking turf, being able to regularly turf rake and verticut, like that really adds up a lot. I mean, if you look at this, like, I mean, this is with the lawn dormant, like the stripe action in the lawn. You guys have seen videos and pictures of my lawn for a number of years, and I'll pause it right here. The lawn has never striped like that with any other mower than the Outlet. And it's not only because of that it's a C27, it's everything that goes along with it. Being able to turf rake and keep a lot of debris out of the lawn, being able to verticut, and just all the cultural practices that add up to producing just really good looking turf. So as a turf care system, I think the Kensington is superior to the True Cut, but it does require more maintenance. It's not as well built, and there's that. So it's always a trade-off. If your budget can swing it, I would say go for the Sterling, because that's, again, it's a next step up, and you have all the benefits of the Kensington, of the interchangeable cartridge mower. So hope that helps. Either one of them is going to do a great job, but that's my 2 cents on it. If I were you and I were in the market to decide between those two mowers, what I would go with and why. So great stuff, man. Let me know which one you end up with. Send me a picture. All right, next is Jonathan Daza. He's back. Follow up on the turf type tall fescue timeline. After week 3 or 4, yeah, okay, so now we're doing better. Should I spoon feed the lawn weekly? So would a weekly 500 or 700 damage the lawn if done weekly? How often do you spoon feed? So yeah, after week 3 or 4, if you want to do a 5% nitrogen product, I am not opposed to that, Jonathan. Really, it comes down to application rate, right? So the thing I would say is based on the bottle, I'm thinking you're talking about like a liquid product you're going to be spraying. Based on the label of that product, right, it will tell you this many ounces of this product mixed with a gallon of water covers 1,000 square feet, and you're putting this amount of nitrogen into the lawn. So let's say your goal for your turf type tall fescue is 1/2 pound of nitrogen per month. I have no idea what your goal is. Let's say it's 1/2 pound of nitrogen. Actually, we'll make the math even easier. Let's say it's 0.8 of a pound, so 0.8 pounds of nitrogen per month. That's your goal. So if you're going to feed weekly, right, then what you would want to do is say my monthly goal, the total amount of nitrogen I want to go into the lawn over the course of a month is 0.8 pounds of nitrogen. And then look at the label for either the 700 or the 500 and see how many fluid ounces you need to mix with water to be able to get up to that 0.20 per week. And then, yeah, you can absolutely do it weekly if you want. So it's the percentage of nitrogen, yes, that does factor in, like what the composition of the product matters, but it still comes down to application rate, right? Like if you take like that 700 and you take, you apply it really heavily in a small area, you're still going to burn the lawn. You're still going to damage it. You know what I mean? So definitely read the label. So for example, if I take a look at this Bloomplex bottle, right? Or Turfplex, right? It'll tell me that we're putting in 1/10, so at a 7.5, so 7.5 fluid ounces of this mixed with a gallon of water, I'm putting in 1/10 of a pound of nitrogen. So not very much. So 7.5 fluid ounces of Bloomplex, but this is an 8-16-0. So it's along the lines of what you're doing. So 8% nitrogen, 16% phosphorus, and then 5% potassium product. 7.5 fluid ounces of that mixed with a gallon of water over 1,000 square feet puts 1/10 of a pound of nitrogen in. So that's what you need to read on the label of the product that you're considering. And then just say, for my fescue lawn, how much N do I want to give it over the course of the month? And then you can divide up how you want to do that. If you want to do it every 2 weeks, then take the rate, cut it in half. If you want to do it weekly, take the rate, divide it by 4, and then just spray that rate every every week. So the answer to your question is yes, you absolutely can do that. Damage to the lawn comes down to more so to application rate than the product that you use. Like you can take like straight urea. You can take like a 3400 and apply it weekly if you wanted to, if you're really careful and you're very good at measuring out like how much you're putting down, right? So it's not so much the product as much as the rate at which you apply the product every, in whatever interval you're going for. Does that make sense? So don't think because, hey, I've got a 5% nitrogen product or a 7% nitrogen product, I'm completely safe. I can go hog wild and apply it super heavy. That's not the case. You still need to make sure you're measuring it out properly and that you are, you're putting the amount of nitrogen that what your goal is, based on your application interval to ensure you're not going to damage the lawn. You're probably not going to with like that low of N, but I don't want you to get out there and think, hey, I could just go hog wild and just spray it whatever rate I want and be just fine. It's still possible to damage the lawn with even a relatively low end product like that. And yeah, if you've got the time, spoon feeding is great. If you've got the time to do it, I am a huge fan of spoon feeding. The only negative to spoon feeding is that it takes more time to do. That's really, in my opinion, the only negative to it. If you think about it, like whenever you eat a meal, think about your lawn as you think about yourself. You could eat technically one big meal a day, right? And that would be, you could get all your calories in one meal. People that do intermittent fasting sometimes tend to do that. But it's not as, you definitely don't feel as good as if you break it up in a meal at breakfast, a meal at lunch, and a meal at dinner time, right? So having smaller meals throughout the day, in general, you feel better, like kind of like spoon feeding, versus having one big meal once in the day. So if there are a lot of people that will fertilize their lawn once a month, that can absolutely work. It's a strategy. It saves you time, and you can get a really good result with it. But you can get more consistent color, not excessive. You're not and without getting like any flushes of growth by putting in a smaller amount of fertilizer on more often. In other words, so less more often, in my opinion, produces a better result than the same amount all applied all at once. You know what I mean? But the negative is you have to have the time to be able to do that and the desire to be able to do that. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Jonathan. Don't just make sure you read the label, figure out how much N you want to give the lawn, and then just apply accordingly. Again, with a 500 and a 7% with a 5 and a 7% nitrogen product, you're highly unlikely to damage the lawn, but still respect the label and do your basic math and figure it out. If you need help with that, feel free to drop me an email. This is my email, ron@golfcourselawn.com. Send me an email with the label of the product you're using, because I don't know, I'm not sure which product you're actually talking about. Let me know what the product is, and I'll help you out with it if you can't work out the math yourself. But yeah, no problems with that. I'm a huge fan of spoon feeding if you got the time to do it. All right, Latanja Moore is back. She says, the event was definitely a lot of fun. I got to try a real mower, #goals. Yeah, it was cool. I saw you out there handling that 20-inch true cut. You were doing a pretty good job at it. For the most part, real mowers are pretty, for a lot of people, can be kind of intimidating. They think, the controls are a little bit different than a rotary mower, and, are they hard to turn? But really, if you're doing it right, the mower is doing most of the work for you. Like turning the mower, like you can run a real mower with one hand for the most part, like a drum style one anyway, like my True Cut or my Greensmaster or the Owlet. You could run those mowers. You can turn them with one hand with good technique, because you allow the mower to do the work for it of turning itself and propelling itself versus trying to really muscle it around. You know what I mean? But that's something that comes with practice and time. And the True Cut, the 20 is a good mower. That P20 is a solid choice, especially if you have a smaller lawn. It's easier to fit in the garage, doesn't take as much space. And it's a good option if you're looking for a real mower. So good stuff. Next up is Dimitri. He is back. He says, I have a 3,500 square foot section in my backyard full of weeds and trees. Sounds like a bad combination. I plan to clear and till this fall. It gets maybe 4 hours of sun, but it's through the day. What type of grass would you recommend? Not Bermuda, not any kind of warm season grass. Now, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of where you are in the country, Dimitri. I imagine southeast, since we met at the turf party. So a fescue or something that doesn't require a lot of sunlight. You can try zoysia, but you're saying, here's the thing. I'm reading through the lines here, and you said it gets keyword, it gets maybe 4 hours throughout the day. So it's not like you have a part of the day where it starts where it's shaded and there's 4 hours of direct sunlight, the sun's beating down on it and then it gets shaded again. So that kind of makes me think that you're talking about an area that's fairly heavily shaded, and a fescue is going to do better in that area than definitely don't try Bermuda. Bermuda is not going to work. Zoysia, you could try, but it's more than likely going to be a pretty expensive experiment. So I would say a fescue is what I would go for, Dimitri. Again, I don't know exactly where in the country you are. I haven't seen the pictures of the lawn. I haven't seen the area, what you're talking about. But just based on what you're describing, a fescue is where I would lean. Fescue grass seed is also a bit, as far as cost, is less expensive. So if you try it and it doesn't work, you're not out a ton of money like you can be with Zoysia. And again, Bermuda, don't even try it. I'm just gonna tell you right now, Bermuda, not gonna work. Zoysia, if you want to give it a shot, you can, but I don't think that's going to be enough sunlight for it. So I would say a fescue is really going to be your best bet if you want to have grass in that area. 3,500 square feet is a big area to turn into a mulch bed, or to put some kind of ornamental there. So I can see you wanting to have grass because it's a fairly large section of lawn, but I think a fescue or some other cool season grass is going to be your best bet. And given that it's heavily shaded, it sounds like it's heavily shaded. That will help it do better when it comes to the summer temps, right? So let's say you live in somewhere in Georgia. The problem with like a fescue or a ryegrass is whenever it's fine this time of year, it's fine in the spring, but when summertime hits, it's not going to be happy, especially if it's getting a lot of direct sunlight. It sounds like what you have is largely shaded, so it should do okay in those kind of circumstances. So hope that helps, sir. Need anything else? Let me know. Let me know which one you end up going with once you decide. All right, next up is Timothy Wolf. He says, "Hey Ron, do you think the prices of fertilizer and other lawn care equipment will go up next year? And are you having a sale on your store this year?" Yes, I think the cost of everything is going to go up. Like, I mean, if you look at what like Celsius cost earlier this year versus what it costs now, it's more expensive. Like literally everything is going up in price. I don't expect fertilizer to be cheaper next year than this year because everything else is costing a lot more money. What I'm hoping is that Humic Max, that the supply chain issues that was causing the price of Humic Max to be really expensive to where it was cost prohibitive to be able to sell. Hopefully those get cured to where we can bring it back next year. But I would not expect any major purchase, definitely not lawn care equipment or fertilizer or herbicides. I don't expect any of this stuff to get cheaper. So again, this stuff doesn't really go bad as long as or I should say this, it keeps for a long time, 3 to 5 years, depending on the conditions. So if you think that at some point you're going to need Celsius or need certainty, like the price that you pay for it now is going to be less than what you will pay next year. So I'll say that, like the price of them is not going to go down. Let's see. And he says, am I having any sales on the store this year? We might be able to, I'm not sure. I can't say for sure. If anything, there might be able to do something for Black Friday, maybe, and it's only going to be for a small subset of the products. Because again, there's not really a ton of margin in lawn care products, unfortunately, especially when it comes to shipping this stuff. But if any time, it's more than likely going to be Black Friday, and it's not going to be for everything in the store. Like the only way really to get a sale in the store is to, if you're not subscribed to the mailing list, that's a way to do it, or to the SMS list. That's a way to, if we ever do discounts or ever do like coupons, those are the people who are going to get that's where it's going to go. If you want to save 5% one time, if you sign up for mobile alerts, you can do that. And the only other way to get anything at a discount is if you are a member of the Golf Course Lawn Academy. There is a discount on a subset of products in the store for Academy members that they get. But that's about it. In general, I just try to price things as well as I can, and that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for discounts on sales, unfortunately. So maybe with time, but right now, not so much. So hope that helps, Timothy. And yeah, to answer your question, I would absolutely, if you're looking to buy any kind of major lawn care equipment, if you can get it now and you got a place to store it now, then I don't expect it to cost less next year than it does now. So, and think about it from a standpoint of reel mowers, now is a great time to try and pick one up, right? If you think about it, like a lot of people get into reel mowing or think they want to do it. They buy one in the spring and they may not use it all throughout the entire season. And this time of year, they may try to get rid of it. So the time to buy a reel mower, especially if you're trying to buy a pre-owned one, is now or over the winter. Like you don't want to wait till springtime, because springtime is when people are gonna be like, oh, I want to try out reel mowing, and everyone and their grandma is gonna be trying to buy one, and that's when the demand for the pre-owned mowers is gonna go up. So if you're thinking about getting one, now would be a good time to start shopping for one. All right, next up we have Robert Bajoros. He's in the live stream. He says, good evening, Ron. Evening, sir. Totally agree with the intro choice you have produced. It's high quality. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. He says, does Spectacle Flow have post-emergent properties? It's a good question. I don't know. I've read the label a bunch of times, and I don't recall seeing any reach back as far as like what dithiopyr has against crabgrass. It might, but it's a good question. Let me screenshot that and get an answer for you for next week, Robert. I don't know off the top of my head what weeds it has the ability to kill. You know what I mean? I don't know that, but I would say this: even if it does, I would not use it as a post-emergent herbicide. Like that would be a bonus. Like the viewer that asked a question earlier that's dealing with POA, I think it was Mike Harvey, that was dealing with POA in his lawn. I would say get your pre-emergent down. Spectacle is an awesome choice for POA. And if you happen to have any kind of cool season weeds that you maybe were a little bit late on your application and you have some breakthrough, I would treat that with post-emergent herbicides, and then Spectacle should prevent a huge outbreak of weeds showing up in your lawn. I mean, in general, it's as far as a product, a single herbicide, a single pre-emergent product that is very good against preventing POA. Spectacle, in my opinion, is about as good as you can get for warm season grass. But again, to kind of, if I'm trying to think the reasoning also behind the question, I would not apply it as a post-emergent. I would apply it in what it's designed for as a pre-emergent, and I'll check the label here tonight once I get out the live stream. If it has any post-emergents, consider that a bonus. I would treat any weeds that you currently have in your lawn with a post-emergent herbicide, and then just let Spectacle do what it's designed to do and prevent more germination, prevent more weeds from breaking through in your lawn. So hope that helps, sir. Thank you for the kind words again on the intro. Again, it was a ton of fun to make, and I'm glad that you guys enjoy it. All right, next up is Linda Hayes. She says, is it safe to level with sand now in Buffalo, New York before the snow comes? Ooh, so here's the thing. Buffalo's that's really far up north. It's October, Linda. I'm leaning towards no. Like even a lot of the cool season guys that do leveling projects, they tend to do those late August and in the September timeframe. We're in like mid-October now, and you live in Buffalo, which is, I'm trying to think of, Buffalo is the coldest place that I've ever personally visited. Like it's like you guys do cold there on another level. So if your lawn is still actively growing, still doing well, and if you're gonna go do any kind of leveling or any kind of top dressing, it's got to be super light. Like I would not, I wouldn't go heavy. Like what let me see, what is the forecast in Buffalo? Let's see what the forecast looks like there. If there's any snow, Buffalo NY. Now you got me curious. Yeah, Buffalo, New York. So yeah, you're still in the 50s, and your 10-day doesn't look like, man, that's a ton of advertising on weather.com. Yeah, so it looks like you're not going to get any freezing anytime soon. So yeah, it looks like for the next 10 days, you're getting days in highs in the 60s, and not a ton of freezing weather. So it puts you this way: if you're gonna do it, go light and do it now. You know what I mean? So I would not, and again, I'm prefacing this all based on that your grass, whatever grass you have, is still looking great, still growing really well. You're still like on a twice per week mowing program. And then if you decide to do this, you're gonna go very light so that the lawn doesn't have a lot to recover from, because I can't imagine that you guys are not gonna get snow soon. I think Chicago's already getting, Illinois, some parts of Illinois are already getting snow. So I don't understand how you guys aren't getting it yet. So if you decide to do it, go super light. But again, if it were me, I think that it would have been better to have done it last month. Like September would have been a better time to do it. So it's really your call. I don't know how heavy you're planning on going, but if you decide to do it, it's a big disclaimer, super light, like really, really light, which is probably going to mean you're not going to get as good a job or as much out of the leveling as you would if you did it the way you probably really want to. But it's in my opinion, a little bit late in the season, given that you're likely not too far off from really, really cold weather in Buffalo and having the lawn shut down. So, your call, but I'm leaning more towards no than yes. And guys, so here we are. We are an hour into the live stream. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button. Now, here's the thing. I know it's a slow night tonight. We got like 70 people in the live stream, but if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button ever so gently, it didn't cost you guys anything. It's a free way to support the channel. And I would really, really, really appreciate it if you guys would do that. Really helps me out, helps the channel out, sends good vibe to the algorithm, sends more people this way to hear us talk about lawn care. All right. Another question I got at the event is where to get merch. So I used to put this link up all the time, but I haven't been doing it on live streams for the past few months. Don't know why. But if you guys are looking for merch like hats, shirts, hoodies, stripe action stickers, you can find them there at the YouTube at my store on YouTube. So youtube.com/RonHenry/store. This link will take you to the merch store, and that's where you can get t-shirts and again hats, hoodies. You can see all the assortment of stuff we have there. So I'll leave that up for a little while in case to know some of you guys were asking, hey, we're gonna get some cool merch. And I'm like, well, I don't sell them any on like the golf course lawn store, but you can get it here if you want. All right, Tony Israel is back. He says, sorry about that fat finger. Okay, no harm, no foul, man. He says, what is recommended height for Bermuda as we enter into dormancy? I've dropped from 2 inches to 1 inch several weeks ago. Depends on where you are in the country, Tony. I can tell you from my experience what I have found. On my particular lawn, I have gone into dormancy with my lawn as short as 1/2 inch with no adverse effects the following year. So going from 2 inches to 1 inch, I think you're going to be absolutely fine. Now, I don't know where you are in the country. If you're, in Arkansas where it gets really cold and, maybe being a little bit taller might be good, but an inch is absolutely fine. I don't think you're gonna have a problem with that. I have done 3/4 of an inch. I've done, again, last year was 1/2 inch, just under 1/2 inch. And the lawn woke up this season with no problems, no issues whatsoever. There were no damage or anything like that. It really depends on where in the country you are. I am a fan of a little bit shorter if you can, going into the into dormancy if you're a part of the country where winters are mild, because it makes the spring scalp a lot less painful. Because here's the thing, the grass still does grow when it's dormant. Grows really, really, really slow. And if you have 2 inches of material to remove, assuming you're going to do like a really heavy scalp, that's a lot of work. Like if my lawn ever got to 2 inches, it would take me likely a couple of weeks of sessions to get rid of 2 inches worth of material over 11,000-ish square feet. So an inch is absolutely fine. That's higher than my lawn. Like what you're seeing here, Tony, is my lawn at 3/4 of an inch, and that's the height that it's going to be at when throughout the rest of the season, into winter and into next spring before I scalp it again. So I think an inch, going from 2 inches to 1 inch, absolutely fine. No need to go any lower than that, especially since this is your first year doing it, and you should be good to go. No worries there at all. All right, we got a super chat, our first super chat from Mr. Robert Majoros. Thank you so much for kicking it off, Robert. I really, really do appreciate that, sir.
Super chat received.
He says, thanks for the answer. Was late on application. Didn't hear your answer earlier on POA. That's my concern as well. Yeah, no worries at all, Robert. And because of your super chat, sir, you are the show's sponsor. Let's see, Robert Majoros. There you go. Your name in lights for whatever that is worth to you. There you go. See? Right there. That's you. So good stuff. Yeah, so as far as that goes, what I would say, Robert, is you got your spectacle application down. Good job. It was a little bit late, no worries. But I would say that if you are trying to kill POA in warm season grass, use Certainty. This is an excellent awesome product. I gotta tell you, like last year, no, it's not. That's not true. Not last year. Early this spring or early this late winter, early spring, my neighbor next door, whose lawn was an absolute mess, had POA, lots of broadleafs in it, and a single application of Certainty, Celsius, and then a pre-emergent app cleaned up the lawn, did a really good job. So as far as POA, this, as long as you mix it with surfactant, is really good against POA. Like, I'm a real big fan of Certainty. Like, it doesn't kill a ton of stuff, but what it goes after, it does. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't kill a lot of stuff. It kills a fair amount of weeds. But the things it is labeled for, like in other words, what they are proud of as far as your sedges, some broadleaves, POA, like it's devastating against what they are proud of. What they put on the label, you're good to go. So I would say that you got your spectacle down. That's all fine and good, and just get yourself some Certainty if you don't already have it, and use that against the POA. That's going to be your best bet. Great question. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Appreciate the support. All right, next up is Dwayne's World. He says, "Hey Ron, happy Friday. I wish I could have attended the Real Roller event. Not really possible being from California. Why? I mean, you could have flown. What you did? You know what, Dwayne? I'm hurt. I mean, I guess I don't matter that much. I mean, there's people. Here's the thing: we had people that drove all the way from North Carolina, that drove all the way from Mississippi to come to the event. But I get it. California is quite a bit further than either of those places. But you were there in spirit, Dwayne. There was tons of real mowers out. So you were there. The collection of real mowers is something you would have definitely enjoyed. But I get it. Being from California, that's a bit of a hike." He says, but I appreciate you putting the pictures and video of the event for all to see. Yeah, I did some YouTube stories, and I posted some pictures of it. The pictures that you guys saw there, I got a ton of them, and I will put some of them up on Instagram. Be sure to check out Real Rollers Instagram, follow theirs. They'll likely post some there too. And any of you guys that have pictures of the event, if you don't mind, send them to me. Ron@golfcourselawn.com. What I might do is I might put together a blog post from the turf party and just have a lot of the pictures that some of the cool ones from that, some of the stuff that you guys submit, some of the ones that I took, and some of the ones that Real Roller supplied. And we'll have that up there so you guys can just check it out if you want. So it was a really good event, and I would like to be able to share some more images of it for those of you guys that want to check it out. As well. So if you have pictures of the event and you want to share them, Ron@golfcourselawn.com. Send them my way, and I'd be happy to add them to the blog post that I am working on. Good stuff. All right, next up is I think I'm trying to see what your name is. Dormancy. He says, "Hey Ron, what's going on?" He says, "We put down Xeon Zoysia sod towards the end of July." Okay, so like early August, September, October. Okay. "I live in coastal North Carolina, mostly sandy soil. I've heard that it's recommended to avoid pre-emergence for up to a year on new sod." Yeah, so what I would say is this, given that you did it at the end of July, which to me sounds a lot more like August. So August, September, we're in October now. If you want to hold off on pre-emergent until next spring, that's fine. What I'll tell you is this, here's what's going to happen, is you are going to have some weeds break through the lawn. You are going to be fighting likely with some POA and some other weeds that tend to flourish during the cooler times of the year. But that's fine. You can just take care of them with a post-emergent herbicide. I would wait until the springtime, and then you can do your pre-emergent app. I'll tell you that in my case, my lawn was sodded in December, and it got pre-emergent like a few months later in March, and with no adverse effects. And again, my lawn was not really, it was rooted in, but it wasn't like super awesome. It wasn't completely, fully folded and fully developed like it looks like now, and it tolerated it just fine. Now, mind you, I have Bermuda. Zoysia is a different animal, and if you wanna forego pre-emergent this fall, that's fine. Plus, really, if you wait much longer, you're almost better off just waiting until springtime. That's going to give you, ample time for the zoysia to root in. And in the spring, I would absolutely do your pre-emergent app. I would not go next spring without doing pre-emergent on your zoysia, because you're going to really hate life if you don't, because crabgrass and spurge and all the other weeds are just going to have their way of the lawn. And from July to February timeframe, March timeframe, that's plenty of time for that zoysia to root in and be in good shape. It'll tolerate pre-emergent just fine at that standpoint. Now, for cool season grass, that is that rule definitely is one that you wanna follow as far as giving it a year before doing pre-emergent. But warm season grass tends to be a bit more hardy. But again, just out of abundance of caution, if you want to forego it this fall, fine. But I would, if it were me, I would get pre-emergent down in the spring. Otherwise, you're just not going to. You're going to be an unhappy camper once the heat arrives next year. And you're saying, do you agree with that, or should I be putting out a fall pre-emergent this year? If no, to fall pre-emergent, how about a spring pre-emergent? Thanks. So I answered your question. I just saw the second comment. So yeah, again, if it were me, I would I would be more inclined to do it. But if you want to be just safe, wait till next spring. I would not give it a year though. I would absolutely apply pre-emergent in the spring at the latest, because if you've ever seen if you've ever tried fighting a lawn that didn't have or fighting weeds in a lawn that didn't have pre-emergent in it, it's a horrible thing, because what happens is this, right? You're going to deal with crabgrass, spurge, hosts of other weeds, kalinga, everything's going to be showing up all over the place. And the problem is you'll kill it, you'll be able to knock it back with post-emergent, but they're just going to come back. Pre-emergent is going to do most of the heavy lifting with preventing crabgrass and a lot of weeds like spurge from even showing up in your lawn in the first place. And the little bit that does come through, you're going to be able to take care of it with a post-emergent herbicide. So again, not to like restate the point over and over and over, in the spring, I absolutely would do it. If you want to go lighter on your application rate, that's fine. But I would not wait an entire year to not do pre-emergent on your zoysia. Especially with you being close to the coast, it's likely going to get warmer. You're going to have like, a warmer season. Like it's probably going to start getting warm sooner for you than other parts of the country, which means you're going to have more weed problems before probably before even I do. So I would absolutely get pre-emergent down in the springtime. Just realize that you are going to have to fight some POA and some other weeds in your lawn over the winter and into the early spring, but that's just par for the course, right? That's the decision you're making, the choice you're making. All right, next up is Dimitri. He says, that outlet does a great job verticutting and turf raking. Amazing how it pulled all that dead grass out of the thick Xeon. Yeah, so that was the thing that people don't really realize, right? You look at the Real Rollers turf park, and I'm not sure if I have a picture of it. I think I do. Let me see if I can find one. I can put it up here really quick. I'll put it if I can find it here real quick. But you look at your lawn, right? And I was guilty of this too. And I said, my lawn looks nice and green, looks lush, looks awesome. I don't have any thatch. I don't have a lot of like garbage in there. And then you turf rake it, and you see all of the brown that comes out. Like if you remember, Dimitri, when we were turf raking the Real Roller turf park, not very, from verticutting, a little bit of green came out, very little, but from turf raking, it was all debris, right? There's very, very little green grass clippings that came out of turf raking. It was all the debris and dead stuff that was just causing the lawn to get really thick. So yeah, that, as far as helping to produce a nicer color in your lawn, turf raking is a really good benefit to it from that perspective, because it just cleans a lot of the debris out, right? You don't have the brown and dead material in your lawn competing with the green grass for color. And I'm trying to, here we go. I found the picture. So here's a picture here. And can I get it up? I think I can right here. There we go. Okay, so we get your message off. If you guys see here, and again, please, I apologize for the lines not being straight, but you can see here that you can see the lines that are in the lawn. That is from verticutting and then turf raking. So Lee is walking back right now with the grass catcher. I am not sure. I think this is verticutting. I believe this is the verticutting pass. Yeah, those lines are pretty deep. This is the verticutting pass, and the amount of debris that came out of that section was quite a bit. I think most people were pretty surprised at how much debris came out of it. So we turf raked that area of the lawn. I'm sorry, no, we verticut it, then turf raked it, and then we mowed it, and then the stripes that came out of it were noticeably better than the other areas, and the amount of debris that came out was I think a lot of people were surprised by that. And we only did like 4 passes. We didn't even do the entire thing, and quite a bit of debris came out. So yeah, I agree with you, Dimitri. That is why, the question earlier that the viewer had about the Kensington versus the True Cut, why I am becoming a fan of the interchangeable cartridge system mowers, because again, soil testing, super important. That's foundational. Like, it's super important part. Fertilizing properly, important. Mowing regularly, super important. But now, if you're trying to maintain have the lawn maintain itself, like the color and growth, and just having it be very nice and consistent over the entire growing season. Being able to verticut it and being able to and turf rake it throughout the season is a big part of that. Like I got the outlet really about halfway through the growing season, right? I got it. I think it was July-ish thereabouts when I got it. No, June. I think it was June is when I got it. I have to look and see. So I didn't even start out the year with it, and it made a huge difference, a tremendous difference in the stripe action, the color, how the turf looked, just in general, just tons of benefits. And that has nothing to do with anything that comes in a bottle, right? That's all the cultural practices. That's the verticutting and turf raking that helps produce that. So the big thing though is time. So yeah, is an interchangeable cartridge mower superior than just a standard mower? Yes, but you have to have the time to be able to use it. So that's the thing too. It's not like from a standpoint of just cutting, like is the C27, does it cut like what much better than the Greensmaster? No, not really. I'd say the two of them are relatively on par. The Greensmaster and the Sterling, they both are not the Sterling, the C27, they both produce an excellent cut. If they're sharp, produce a cut where if I showed you a pass with either mower, you'd likely have a hard time telling which mower did what. But where the C27 shines, or an interchangeable cartridge mower shine, is the other things they can do that help produce beautiful stripes, beautiful color, healthier turf, and help with like disease problems in the lawn because you don't have all this thatch building up. So there's that. But yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, that everyone got a chance to get out there and run it and do some turf raking and mowing with it, and seeing the results that the interchangeable cartridge mower can produce. So good stuff. All right, next up is Moro. He is back. He says, any thoughts on pre-germinating grass seed before spreading? I've been seeing a few videos on this recently. I've never done it, so I don't really have an opinion on it. I can't see how it would hurt Moro. I can't see how it would hurt to do that, but I've never done it. I've never, I mean, to really be able to say that, yeah, it's worth the extra effort, because it is more work to do that versus just putting the seed out. To be able to say that it's really worth it, what you'd have to see in a video, and hopefully the videos that you're watching, the person is doing the videos actually showed this. They have a section of their lawn as a control where they just did standard traditional seeding. They just put seed down and began watering it. And they have another area of their lawn where they did the pre-germination and then seeded, put the pre-germinated grass seed in that area. And then maybe, 3 weeks later, they compared how it grows in. Like, that's a good way to test to be able to see that, yeah, it's that, if you do regular traditional seeding versus pre-germination, this is what the benefits, what you could see. Again, I've never done it, so I can't really weigh in on that it's going to be that much better. It's more work, so hopefully, the juice is worth the squeeze from a standpoint of the improved germination rates and establishment rates that you get from pre-germinating the grass seed. But I can't really comment on it because I've never done it. All right, next up is Anthony Johnson. He says, should I dethatch my lawn this fall? I'm not a fan of doing that. I don't know what kind of grass you have, Anthony, but in general, I'm gonna answer the question as if you were my neighbor and you had a warm season lawn, a Bermuda lawn. I would definitely not do that in the fall. You want to dethatch the lawn, and this really applies to cool season and warm season grass. You want to dethatch the lawn when it is actively growing or when it's about to start actively growing. So if your lawn had a ton of thatch in it, the time of year to consider doing that would be like the early spring. So if you were my neighbor, you're saying, hey man, I have my lawn's been neglected for many, many years. There's a big thatch problem in it. I want to get rid of a lot of that thatch. The time to do that would be like the March time frame, right? Get a lot of the thatch cleaned out, and you are doing that at the time when the Bermuda is about to take off, like about to get a lot of rain, a lot of heat, a lot of sunlight, and the grass is going to start growing. For cool season grass, you could also do it around that time of year or in the early fall. So if you had a cool season lawn, again, depending on where you are in the country, I would have think that dethatching would be something you'd want to do in like August timeframe, early September timeframe, when you're entering the beginning of the second growing season for cool season turf. For warm season grass, you absolutely don't want to do it this time of year because the lawn's not going to recover from it, right? Dethatching is very aggressive. I mean, again, depending if you're actually talking about truly dethatching, right? When I think about dethatching, I think of like the solid blade with like, it's got like a slight hook on it. Like that, if you're talking about the really aggressive dethatching that takes a lot of debris out, and again, it's pretty hard on the grass, like I would save that until the springtime. Here's the thing too, Anthony. Most lawns really don't really need that. You know, you can typically get by with a good power raking or good turf raking, a few sessions of that to clean, thatch out, and it's not going to be nearly as stressful to the lawn as dethatching. If you're talking about, because a lot of times people throw the terms dethatching and turf raking around interchangeably, and they are very different things. Like the turf raking is a fairly gentle process where you have the little small spring-loaded fingers that are set to not get down into the soil, and they gently comb the grass and clean debris or light debris out of the sward, out of the canopy, right? Dethatching is you're using more of a solid blade, and that is a much more aggressive process that you really want to do that when the grass has time to heal from it. So if you decide to dethatch, the answer either way is no. This time of year is not a time I would do that, especially for if you have Bermuda. Wait till next spring, March timeframe. Again, I'm answering this as if you were my neighbor. It depends on where you are in the country, right? If you are in Florida, you could likely do it a little bit earlier, but if you are my neighbor in Georgia, March timeframe is when you consider doing something really aggressive like that on the lawn. So no, to answer your question, I would not do it now, simply for the reason that there's not enough time for the grass to really to heal from it, to recover from it. So for the same reason why there are some people that will say aerating the lawn this time of year, they'll do that, or they'll aerate warm season grass this time of year. I'm not a fan of doing that. The same thing for the same reason. Like I would do that in the spring, throughout the summer, that's fine. Like whenever the grass is actively growing, great time to aerate the lawn. But as you're going into the winter, I mean, could you? I guess, but what problem are you really trying to solve? You're getting like the grass isn't really growing that quickly. Its ability to recover from the damage this time of year is going to be a lot slower. And so aerating, verticutting, turf raking, dethatching, those are all activities that are best done when the grass is actively growing. And the more aggressive ones, like dethatching, that's out of all the things I've listed, dethatching being the most aggressive, definitely when you're about to enter the growing season for your particular grass type is what I would say. So hope that helps, sir. If you need anything else, let me know. And yeah, but good that you're thinking about it, though. It's a great question. All right, next up is Dwayne's World. He says, hey, Ron, when you are using your cartridges on your outlet, which should you use first if you are going back to back? Dethatch, then verticut, or the other way around? Okay, so if I have, several hours to kill on a Saturday or a Sunday in the lawn, what I will do, and you guys have seen me do this on the live stream, I will verticut, and then I'll verticut, and if I'm really got a lot of time, I'll verticut the lawn in a couple of different directions, and then I'll use the turf rake to clean all that debris out, like get all the stolons that were cut and all the debris that comes kind of a mess from verticutting, get a lot of that out. And then finally, I'll do a cleanup cut. And I've got a live stream where I did this. I actually did this live a few months ago. I'm not sure if I can find it. Maybe I can. I think I can. I should be able to. Yeah, I did a live stream showing the entire process, and it was a long one. I have to see if I can find it and send it to you. But yeah, it was. To answer your question, Dwayne, I would verticut first because of the three things that you're talking about, that is the most aggressive. And then I would turf rake to clean out any little debris that's left over from the verticutting process, and then finally a cleanup cut to give to lay out that stripe action and just give the lawn a nice finished manicured look. So that's the sequence that I would do that in. And then as far as what I do regularly is, if I have the time, I'll turf rake and then mow. Like if you have the turf rake set up, if you have the turf rake set up properly, you could literally do it every time before you mow it if you wanted to, because it's really not an aggressive process. Even on Bermuda, it's really not aggressive. So if you have the time, you could turf rake and then mow each time. Probably don't. But again, I do verticutting, then turf raking, and then mowing in that order. In that order. You would not want to turf rake after mowing because you're going to mess up the nice manicured look you have in the lawn. You wouldn't want to verticut after mowing for the same reason. So the thing that is definitely consistent is a cleanup cut once you're done to give the lawn that nice manicured look after you are done with your mow, with you're done with all your other processes. Great question. All right, Lauren says, I'm always down for another meet. You have all my contact info. The first cut on the Owlet was amazing. Yeah, it's true, right? When it comes to reel mowers, man, it is definitely there's life before this and there's life after this kind of thing, right? It definitely is a game changer, both in how your turf looks and from your perspective of how much of a difference a reel mower can make in your lawn. He says, the yard is still bumpy, but it made it look much more level. I only have a close-up shot I just emailed. Let's see if we can take a look at it. Let me see if I got a picture here from Lorne. All right, yeah, we got a picture. We can show this off. Let's see here. Yeah, all right, we can do that. So I'm going to throw this up here on the live stream. You guys want to see Lorne's first cut. So there he is. He's putting the Kensington through its paces, and you can see his first cut. It does look smooth, man. It looks pretty good. I can tell your lawn's already starting to check out, but it looks nice and smooth, nice and even. And yeah, good job. Good job. Looks solid. And here's the thing, you're just getting started with it. Next year, it's going to be even better. It's going to be even better because you're going to start out the season. You probably won't use that to scalp, but you use another mower to scalp and do your cleanup work. And then as you begin cutting with that throughout the season, you're gonna really enjoy how the turf looks with when being cut regularly with a reel mower. Really, really gonna like that. Next up is JK. He says, any residential verticutters you're aware of? I already have a GM 1000, so not looking at any cartridge system. Yes, that's a good question. I don't really know of any residential ones. Like there are some slit seeders that you can buy. What's the name of the company? Their stuff is red and white. Like Ryan's stuff is green, and theirs is red and white. I think it starts with a C. But yeah, they make a slit seeder that you can use for verticutting. But here's the thing: I gotta warn you, JK. I gotta warn you on this. The benefit to getting a verticutter using an interchangeable cartridge mower is that all the debris, or most of the debris, I mean, the majority of the debris that comes out of the verticutting process, because it is pretty messy, goes into that basket. So from a standpoint of cleanup, it's a lot less work. I did what you're considering doing, using a slit seeder to do verticutting, and it does a good job. It can work absolutely fine for that. But what tends to happen now is you're going to verticut the entire lawn, and all the debris that you're taking out is thrown all over the lawn, and now you have to get out there with like a grass rake and rake it all up. And believe me, that is no fun. It is not a fun process. Like I'll tell you, like you are much, even if you were able to go buy one of those machines, and you can buy them for around $1,500 when I was actually looking at it. Like I would almost see if I could find like a pre-owned Kensington or something, just to do verticutting with it, because being able to get the debris going into a basket is so much nicer, and what it's going to do. It's going to make you actually want to do verticutting, because the first time you do it with it's a Klassen, that's the name of it. The first time you do it with a Klassen or Billy Goat's version of a slit seeder to do verticutting, the cleanup is going to steer you away from doing it, because it's a ton of work. Like the mess that it creates is actually pretty substantial, and being able to have all that debris caught for you makes it actually fun to do, right? Because then all you do is got to stop and go empty it out, and away you go, and there's a lot less mess, a lot less cleanup work to be able to do. So Klassen makes one, and I believe Ryan they also check and see if they make a slit seeder that can be used for verticutting as well. I don't know of a residential system. There's also what's the powered ones? There's the Sunjo. Sunjos can be used for that, and there's another company that's also the electric powered ones. But again, those are relatively inexpensive. But the thing that I dislike is that the material just ends up back on the turf. You got to then go afterwards and make another pass with a grass rake to clean it all up. So that's the only negative to that. All right, other question. He says, JK, does spectacle flow prevent nut sedge? I don't believe so. I don't know that there actually is a pre-emergent that is very effective against preventing nutsedge. I mean, you can check the label, but I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Or if it does, it's not very good against it, because nutsedge, I get nutsedge in my lawn every year in the same areas. It's always where, whenever the lawn drains, where the back lawn mostly drains. If you're sitting on the patio looking out at the lawn, it drains on the left side. That's where the majority of the water goes, but some of it also drains on the right side. And the channels where that water passes is where the nutsedge tends to grow in. So it comes there, and it also grows in the swale area of my lawn. So yeah, and that happens every single year without fail. But then I get out there with good application of certainty and smack it hard with that, and then I'm good to go. What I tend to find is I'll have to do like 2 apps. Like I have to go after nutsedge like twice in a growing season with certainty. I'll do it once early in the season, and then a couple months later, if any of it grows in again, I'll just hit it again with certainty, and then I'm good. So as far as a herbicide, as far as the ones that I use more, I'm trying to think. This year, I used certainty more than I used Celsius, because I don't have a lot of broadleaf issues in my lawn. Like I had like the doveweed experiment that we were using Celsius for. That was some application is where I used it. But as far as the one that I use more regularly outside of like experiments and research type stuff, certainty is the one that I lean more towards. So I hope that helps. But yeah, I'm fine to be corrected on that, JK. But I've not yet come across a pre-emergent that is very effective at preventing sedges. I don't know of any. And again, I've used Spectacle for a number of years, and I still get sedges in my lawn. So there is that. All right, next up is EMJ2382. He says, "Hey Ron, I enjoyed the event last Saturday. I was glad I got a chance to meet you and Alex. I was the guy with the Braves hat on." Okay, yep, I know who you are. Yep, cool, yeah, very, very cool. It was fun, because again, there's a lot of you guys would come to me to say hi, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" I say, "Hey Ron, what's going on?" And I kind of just wait for a second to say, "What's your name? What your name is?" Like, 'cause I don't know. Again, you guys know me, but I don't know who you guys are a lot of times. But it was cool. It was really cool to see, to meet a lot of you guys in person. I'm glad the weather was great. We got to do a lot of mowing and just hang out and play cornhole and just chop it up about grass and mowers and all that kind of stuff, right? So it was a good time. Well, already looking forward to next year. Next up is Tutrilla. He says, "When it comes to the cartridges, if I could only get one to start the season, which would you use, the turf rake or the verticutter?" Okay, to start the season. Okay, so to start, but then you're going to eventually get the other one. I would start with the turf rake and then get the verticutter later on, because what you can do is you can scalp to start, and you're going to get a lot of benefit, even for like cleaning up after scalping. Like the turf rake is going to be amazing for helping with that. So I would get the turf rake to start. So it's going to help with cleanup after scalping. You're going to be able to use it as the season starts. And then let's say by June timeframe, late May, early June timeframe, when the lawn begins to really thicken up and when it can stand to get a good verticut, if by then you can get the verticutting cartridge, that's when it would be good to have it. So I would say the verticutter is much less important at the start of the season, but becomes more important as temps get higher and the lawn just starts to thicken up from all the regular mowing you're doing. The turf rake, you're going to, out of all the cartridges, the turf rake by far you're going to use the most. I mean, again, after the actual cutting cylinder. I mean, that's a given, right? The one you cut the grass with, you can use the most, and then the second is going to be the turf rake, and then verticutting after that. And then if you have like a sorrel roller or any of the other more specialty cartridges, those fall much. Those take a lot less. They're kind of in the back burner. So I would say, as much as outside of the cutting cylinder, you're going to use the turf rake the most, and then you're going to verticut. And ideally, when the lawn's actively, like it's in full tilt, like we're into May timeframe, you'd be verticutting once a month and then turf raking whenever you have the time to do it. So you really can't turf rake enough. It's really on you on how much time you have to be able to do that. So there you go, Tutrilla. I would say start with the turf rake and then get the verticutter at some point if you can swing it. May timeframe is when I would start putting some money aside to have a verticutter. because in June, especially if you're mowing the lawn regularly a couple times a week, it's going to start getting thick. And what you're going to find is if you don't verticut it or do something to thin it out, you're going to start getting scalping or you're going to start getting cutting issues that you didn't have earlier in the season. And verticutting will help correct that. So start with a turf rake, get the verticutter eventually, and then you'll be well on your way to domination. All right, Rich V is up next. He says, I'm correcting low potassium levels in my perennial ryegrass lawn in New Hampshire. I have 1.5 pounds per thousand still to go. Would you recommend putting it down now or late November as a winterizer? Thanks. I don't think it matters either way, Rich. If you want to put it down now, you can. I mean, either way will work. You can do your potassium. I mean, or you can split it up. You can do some of it now. You can do some of it next month, the middle of next month, into late next month. That can work too. So yeah, it's you're splitting hairs. Either way will work. It's not like you're going to negatively you're going to get a bad result if you do it now and not in November or vice versa. You know, what I might say is just split it up and just do an app now and do another app middle to the end of next month. So hope that helps, sir. Next up is DH Designs and Painting. It says, hey, Ron, do they have a turf grass that only works in shady areas? That only works in shady areas? I mean, I'd say that's more tolerant in shady areas. Like your cool season grasses tend to do better in shade. So like fescue in particular tends to do better in shade than Bermuda or zoysia or ryegrass or Kentucky bluegrass. Kentucky bluegrass and ryegrass need sunlight. Zoysia needs sunlight, and then Bermuda needs a lot of sunlight. So as far as in the ranking of like needing a lot of sunlight to needing the least amount, Bermuda, in my opinion, by far is way up there. Bermuda, St. Augustine, they need a lot, a fair amount of sunlight. Then your zoysia will tolerate less sunlight. Your cool season grasses also need the direct sunlight, and then fescue, particularly fine fescue, if memory serves me, is among the more shade tolerant grasses. So hopefully that helps, but it doesn't only work in shady areas. It'll work in areas that get sunlight as well too. But Bermuda will not work in shade. Like, don't even bother trying. It's just not gonna happen. Bermuda needs literally, I mean, people say 6 or 7 hours of sunlight, but really it's as much sunlight as possible. Like 7, 8+ hours of direct sunlight is what Bermuda needs. In other words, if you take a look at how my lawn looks now, this time of year, it's cooling off. If you look at that lawn, right, there's not any shade issues. Like the house, like the way the sun comes up, it comes up, how can I describe this? If you're standing at the patio and looking out, the sun rises there. So the lawn, this entire lawn doesn't really get any measurable amounts of shade until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So it gets a ton of sunlight, and you can still see how it's already losing its color, right? But I mean, unless you get that kind of sunlight, without trees or shrubs or things to kind of really cut down on it, Bermuda is not going to look as good as it potentially could. So out of all of them, I'd say DH Designs and Painting, Bermuda by far is one that you don't want to even try if you have any amounts of shade. I'll tell you this way. Here's how much Bermuda hates shade. If you have shrubs in your lawn, let's say you have shrubs bordering where your lawn is, like the area right near the shrubs with Bermuda is going to thin out. Even like just 3 feet away from the shrubs, you're going to notice it's going to be a lot thinner than just 3 to 4 feet away from the shrubs, due to just the amount of sunlight that the shrubs cast on that part of the lawn. So Bermuda is very, very particularly when it comes to a lot of direct sunlight. So try a fescue. If you're looking for a grass to try that does well in shade, a fescue tends to do well. All right, so we have another super chat here. One from Vashawn Brooks. Thank you, Vashawn. I guess no question, but just a super chat. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
Super chat received.
And because you have beat Mr. Robert Majoros, you are now the show's sponsor for the time being, unless someone goes higher than Lucy. So Vashawn, make sure I don't spell your name wrong. Vashawn Brooks. I know a Brooks. Maybe I don't know if you're related to him, but I know a Brooks. Maybe one of your kinfolk. All right, so Thanks for that again, Vashan. Appreciate your all the love and support. Who else? Did I see Alex in here? I did see Alex in here. He is in here. Alex was saying, "Hey, it's nice meeting you. It was nice meeting you also, and learning more about your lawn goals. Cool." So there you go. See, Alex is in the live stream as well, hanging out, helping out, and he had a lot of fun too. Meaning, I told Alex he needs to show up almost as much as I need to show up, because people are really excited about meeting him as well too, which is really cool. It was cool that both were able to get out there. All right, next up is Robert Wallace. He says, "Hey Ron." Now here's the thing, guys. Robert's a really cool guy, and before I read his comment, Robert was a really nice guy. Came out there, he's a vet, served in the armed forces, so thank you for your service, sir. But my man came out wearing, I want to say it was some kind of sports attire that was not appropriate for the event. I want to say it was like Clemson or something like that. Him and his, he had someone else. He had, I'm not sure if it was his son or family with him. They were also in this orange out there, and I had to give him some grief for it. But you help protect our country, so I guess we can tolerate it. I'm just giving you a hard time, Robert. All right, but anyway, he says, "It was a pleasure meeting you. Likewise, sir. Thanks for coming to hang out. It was fun. Does the Yard Mastery sell replacement parts for the backpack sprayer? I'm trying to get an additional quick connect nozzle." Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think so, but I can tell you where you can get one. I've not seen the parts listed on Yard Mastery's website, but I believe FlowZone sells the quick connect by itself. I'm almost positive they do. Let me see. FlowZone sprayer. I think it's fzspray.com, so I can find it for you and get it to you. Ooh, let's see. There we go. So this, and then under accessories and all accessories. Man, their website is not loading. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so on their website, they should have, I'm trying to find it here so I can just send you the direct link to it. There we go. I think this is it. Cool. Found it. Here we go. So Robert, yeah, this is what you can get it here. I don't think Yard Mastery sells it, but you can get an extra one here. And it is worth getting one of those. I got to tell you, that is pretty handy, because what happens is I have two, because I had the FlowZone, and then the Yard Mastery came with one, and then Nyan, who's a viewer, sent me one of the adapters, so I have two of them. And what I do is I keep one with my foliar tip on it, with this guy, with this T-Jet tip, the fine spray tip. This guy lives on one of them, and on the second one, on the other one, Quick Connect, I have this guy. This lives on it, the Flood Jet. So I have one for soil-based apps, and I have one for foliar apps. And it just saves you from having to unscrew it and screw it on, and make sure it's nice and tight, and make sure you don't lose the little rubber O-ring that's in there. So having two is very convenient, and they're not that expensive to where picking up a second one is gonna break the bank. So yeah, you can get one there. I don't believe Yard Mastery sells them, but you can get one off of FlowZone's website. All right, next up is Dimitri. He says, "I will definitely buy Certainty off your website during the off season." Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, definitely pick some up. Again, we carry it. As far as things to do this time of year, I got my first Headway app down. I'll be doing the other Headway G, my second fungicide app, the end of this month. So in a couple more weeks, I'll be getting my my fungicide app, my second fungicide app down, and that'll be it. But yeah, Certainty's on the website under the weed killer section, and then fungicides, you can find them. Again, just go to the menus and you can find whatever you're looking for there. All right, next up is Fairway Bermuda. Daryl's in the house. He says, "What's up, Ron? It was cool to meet you, brother." Absolutely, it was really cool. Like I know what you look like, and it was really cool meeting you in person. And Daryl got, here's guys. I don't want to ruin it, but I think if I had to guess, I think a Greens Master is in Fairway Bermuda lawns in Daryl's future, because he got to use the 1600, and it's. His face said it all. I'm like, listen, and I warned him. I said, "Daryl, listen." He's like, I said, "You want to try out the mower?" And he says, "Yeah, man, I definitely want to try it." And I said, "I got to warn you, there's life before this and there's life after this." And he's like, "No, whatever, we'll try it and we'll see." And he didn't have to say anything. The look on his face, a smile on his face, I said, "You know what? He's going to eventually add one of those to the stables. I know what's going to happen." And you're very, very welcome about trying out the mowers. That's why I brought him out. The only one you guys aren't able to mow with is this guy, because I mean, I've never cut with it, and I don't even have the batteries to be able to cut with it. But the C27 and the Greensmaster, you guys are more than welcome to use. Again, I'm there. I'm gonna make sure nothing bad happens to them. So there's no reason to bring out all the nice hardware, not to let you guys have a go at it, right? Definitely, that's the reason why we do it. All right, for Bermuda, Daryl has a question or comment here. He says, I got my soil test done today and sent it off. I can't wait for the results. Front lawn separate from the back lawn. That's cool. That's a good way to do it, Daryl. Not a bad way. I would say just be consistent. You know what I mean? Doing the back lawn and the front lawn is a good idea, especially if you've got enough differences between the deficiencies in the soil that the treatment plans would be different. But eventually it'd be good to get them to the point where you've got the deficiencies corrected to where you can just use one test over, for both areas. Again, it's actually more beneficial to me if you buy more of them, but I can just tell you on my lawn, I use a single test for the front and the back and the side, and it works really well. So if you guys are wondering what Daryl's talking about, is the soil test kit from My Soil. These guys are awesome. They're money. Really, really enjoy the results I get with them. They're super easy to interpret, and the results that you get stay in a web portal that allows you to compare over time. It doesn't cost you anything extra for that, which is kind of a cool thing that they did. So, some people will get a soil test. There's tons of ways to do it, right? You can send your soil sample off to like an extension office. But in general, the results that come back tend to be more difficult for the average layperson to interpret and make sense, and to take the recommendations and scale them down to a residential lawn. And then you have to keep track of all the pieces of paper you got, right? And there's not an easy way to compare your sample from like the spring to the fall or from year over year. If you get your soil test from My Soil as a free value add, you get access to that portal that keeps all your soil test results, and you can compare them. And it's a really, really cool tool utility they built into their process that just helps the homeowner out to be able to make good decisions for their turf care program. So good stuff. Let me know if you need any help. Daryl, you probably won't need my help as far as taking care of your soil test results, but if anything, send them to me anyway, man. I'd like to see what the differences are between your front and rear lawns. So Ron at golfcourselawn.com. You got my email address, man. Feel free to send them over if you don't mind. All right, next up is Vashawn Brooks. He says, what's up, Ron? Great meeting you at Real Rollers. Thank you, Vashawn. It was really cool meeting you as well. It was a great time to see. It was very humbling. It was very humbling to have people drive from out of state just to come in and hang out for a few hours. Like it was really, 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 really cool. Like again, both Alex and I were just talking about it after the fact. And we're like, man, it was really cool that people were willing to make the trip to come hang out and come see us and just talk and use the mowers. It was a really great time. So thank you guys so much for making the trip. I know Real Rollers really appreciated all the support, and I can't wait for us to do it again. Really can't wait. All right, next up is Half. He says, hey, Ron and all, just put out my prodiamine. Will hand pulling weeds cause it to stop working correctly? Hope all is well with you. I have not seen that to be the case, Half. So if you want to hand pull weeds, by all means go for it. Much like aeration, right? Like some people say, you go out and you put pre-emergent down. If you aerate your lawn afterwards, you're gonna get a huge, massive breakout of weeds in your lawn. You're working against yourself. And I'll put you this way: if you apply pre-emergent and then you aerate, are you breaking the barrier? Yes. Is it more likely that you will have some weeds break through potentially? Yes. Is it like a night and day difference? In other words, is it if you go and aerate your lawn, your entire lawn is going to be covered up in weeds after the fact? I have not found that to be the case. And I do it literally, my pre-emergent, you guys see the content. I tend to err towards getting my pre-emergent down earlier than a lot of other people do. I tend to do it like, February timeframe for my spring application. I get it done early. And you guys see everything I put my lawn through. I aerate it, I verticut it, I do a lot of things to it, and it still stays, it's weed free for the most part, right? So no, hand pulling weeds should not cause a problem. You know what I mean? I absolutely would just pull the weeds. I mean, if you have so few that you can get away from having to use herbicides, you can just manually pull them out. By all means, do it. That's what I do when I'm walking around the lawn sometimes, and I'll see like a little bit, like a sedge or maybe a little kalinga there. I mean, I don't go out and get certainty every single time I see, a sedge in the lawn. I'll go out there and just pluck it out. Now, granted, that's not necessarily going to kill it or get rid of it for good, but it gets it out of my eyesight, and that's good enough for me, right? So yes, Half, you can pull weeds in your lawn. That's not going to be a problem. It's not going to materially or it's not going to materially negatively impact the ability of your pre-emergent to work. It's not going to be a night and day difference. All right, next up is for Bermuda. He's back. He says, yeah, that turf raking was a big difference from verticutting. The verticutting brought up a little green with brown, but the turf raking was all brown. And that's the thing you're going to find. Like, when you first start, you'll take, I will guarantee you this. If any of you guys on all your lawns, you'll think that you have a really good looking lawn. And Daryl's lawn looks good. Believe me, I've looked at his lawn. I mean, I'm not seeing it in person. I've seen the pictures. And his lawn's a good looking lawn. If he were to go out and start turf raking it, like he got some kind of an interchangeable cartridge system mower and started turf raking it, you would be shocked at the amount of debris that's going to come out of it the first few times you do it. And you just keep doing it and the debris is going to keep coming out. And the thing that you don't really appreciate is how much better the color gets. Because when you look at the lawn, all you're seeing is green now. All you're seeing is the green leaf of the actively growing plant. You don't have all the debris from the grass that's breaking down in the lawn that's competing with it for producing that nice color. So if you turf rake and then you also combine that with catching your clippings, the color and the stripe action just goes, it's another level, man. It's another level. Again, more work, but it's another level as far as just how your turf looks. All right, Ed Moore saying we're at 81. Yeah, Ed, we are. Yeah, we're now at 80 concurrent viewers. So definitely hit that like button if you guys have not done so. It costs you nothing to do it. It's a great way to support the channel. Appreciate you coming to hang out, Ed. All right, Bashan is back. He says, I am firing my lawn service and going DIY. They've already applied pre-emergent. When should I do a soil test to lay out my plan for 2023? It's your call. What I would do, Vashan, is I would do one now. I would definitely do one now because the reason why I'm a fan of fall soil tests is because if your soil pH is low, meaning that your soil could benefit from a lime application, learning that now and getting your lime application now gives you more time for that to react with the soil and help bring that pH up to where whenever you do your soil test in the spring, all you're going to know is your pH should be in a much better shape. And then you're going to be able to say, okay, like as far as fertilizer that I should be using from like an NPK ratios, what's the best fit for my lawn? And the pH should already be in a much better position. So I'm a fan of doing one like now if you can, and then doing another one late February before you're going to start feeding your lawn, and to know what fertilizer works best. If you want, you could do one now and then use the results of that to also drive your fertilizer app in the spring. That works fine too. But doing one now, doing one in the spring is what I would say. These guys really don't cost that much to where, I mean, they cost much less than a bag of fertilizer, right? So to where doing one now and doing another one in the spring, in my opinion, is worth it. It's worth it. And then your next application of pre-emergent, because your lawn care service has already applied it for the fall, you can do your pre-emergent in the springtime, So that's cool. It's cool that you're taking on the challenge yourself. Here's the thing. I am not anti-DIY I'm not anti-DIY. I'm not anti-lawn care service, because the thing you have to realize too, right, is that lawn care services, given the number of applications that they do per year, some of them it's like 7, anywhere between 6 to as many as 8 in a season. Like, given that they're only out there a handful of times, 8 times or so in a growing season, like for most people, they produce a really good result. They produce a result that's good enough to where your lawn's not going to be full of weeds, the grass is going to be reasonably green, and if you're mowing it, it's going to look pretty good. So you can't. I get that you're getting rid of your lawn care service, but you can't really compare what we as lawn care enthusiasts in the DIY community do to what a lawn care service does, because what we do as far as number of applications, we by far exceed what they do. So so saying that your lawn looks better because I'm taking care of it myself, yes, that's true, but it should, because you're also putting a lot more care into it. Like, you're out there a lot more, you're feeding it more. If you're doing like spoon feeding as far as your fertilization program, you're out there twice a month, whereas your lawn care service is gonna fertilize once every 6 weeks, maybe once every 8 weeks, depending on what kind of program they're doing. So it's not, I would say this is not really fair to compare the results you get doing it yourself with the results you get from a lawn care service, because you are doing more when you're doing it yourself. So I would say get rid of the lawn care service and do it yourself if you just enjoy doing it, as you just enjoy being out in the lawn and taking care of it yourself. But in general, it's not something to do as a way to save money, because if you're using the same products, it ends up costing as much or more, at least in the first year anyway, because you got to buy a backpack sprayer and buy all the supporting equipment and stuff. So there's that. But if you enjoy it as a hobby and just enjoy working on your lawn yourself, from that perspective, it is 100% worth it. All right, next up is Jim Carson. He says, so I purchased Prodiamine 65 and Essential G and will be installing Bermuda sod. When do I apply the Prodiamine? The day of or 3 weeks prior? Thanks again. Okay, Jim. So I would get the Prodiamine. I mean, I think you're in, if I remember, you're in SoCal, right? Aren't you in California? So it depends. You can do your pre-emergent needs to be based, your pre-emergent application needs to be based on soil temperature. So for your fall pre-emergent, the best time to apply it would have been September, if you're my neighbor, right? Like early September. If you're doing your sod in the spring, the time to apply it would be, I mean, again, if you were my neighbor, late February, early March timeframe. Essential G, you can apply that like right the day of you're putting the sod in, or a day or two before. The long short is apply the Essential G prior to putting the sod down. Like in a best case scenario, you would have the lawn, the soil and everything prepped. You would apply like a really heavy application of Essential G, like much heavier than bag rate, and then you would lay the sod on top of it, and then you'd be good to go. That's the way I would do that. Prodiamine, I would get that done earlier. Essential G, the day of or a few days prior. And yes, I think that's everything that you are asking. Yep. So hope that helps, Jim. If I didn't understand your question, or if you have a follow-up, definitely let me know. But I think you've got it. Yeah. Prodiamine, again, fall, spring, and then Essential G, a couple days before or day of. Either is going to work well. The thing with Essential G, I would say, is go heavy. Go heavy on it if you're doing it as part of a sod installation project. All right, we got a super chat from Fairway Bermuda Lawn. Thank you so much for the love and support, Daryl. Appreciate you. He says, here's that gas money I told you about for using the GM 1600. Please don't make me buy another mower. Listen, I didn't make you do anything. I warned you. I said, listen, man, there's life before this and there's life after this. I told everyone that. I told Lee that too when he used the outlet. I said, yeah, I got to warn you. Life before this and life after this, if you go out and you spend a bunch of money and buy a mower afterwards, it is not my fault. I said it just like that. I used that same tone, that same cadence. That's all I said. I said, it's not my fault. If you want to get it, you're free to use it. You're free to mow with any of the equipment that's out here. You want a turf rake, you can do that. You can do anything you want to do. But if you go buy a mower, I don't want the missus coming after me saying, oh, you went to that, the Real Rollers of Rent and you talked to Ron and Ron's got you buying a mower. I did not do that. I mean, I wholeheartedly support and endorse you buying a mower, but I'm not the one telling you to do it. So there you go. Appreciate the super chat, sir. And I think you are now the show sponsor. I think you are the top contributor. So we're gonna say Fairway Bermuda Lawn. And guys, in case you guys haven't checked out Daryl's channel, be sure to give him some love. He puts out some great content. Definitely check him out. And help support the YouTubers, because we're a sensitive bunch. We put a lot of our heart, soul, and time into the content, and sometimes we can get any views, and it hurts a little bit. So if you guys can get out there and support your YouTuber, all the work that we put into it would be much appreciated. Daryl puts out lots of great content. Give him some love. All right, next up is Isaac Momperhouse. He says, for me, in a cool season lawn, I think dethatching is for spring. Yep. Aerating is more for spring, but you're right on. Most people don't need to dethatch often at all. Yeah. So, in my opinion, Isaac, I would say, let's say you have a lawn that you're moving into a new property and the lawn's been neglected for a number of years, right? Or you've owned the property for a while and you just haven't really cared about the lawn. You decide, you know what? I really want to go out and really get the lawn looking nice, and I want to give it a nice foundation to start. And there's not a lot of noticeable, visible thatch buildup in the lawn. In that case, that is when dethatching makes a lot of sense. And when I'm talking about dethatching, I'm talking about like the solid blade, like little hook on the end of it, the really aggressive tool that takes a lot of material out. Like doing that like one time to kind of get you on the right track that's fine. I'm good with that. But really, it's not something you should have to do every year. Most people, if you are regularly turf raking, that's going to do a good job of keeping debris out of the lawn. And if you have warm season grass, if you want to get out there and do a scalp in the spring, that is also a good way to clean out material out of the lawn. Most people do not need a heavy dethatch, and they definitely don't need it every single year. So if your lawnmower it was an absolute mess, and you did one the spring of 2023, right? Assuming you're staying on top of your lawn after that, where you're turf raking it afterwards, and you're not allowing a lot of thatch problems to build up by one, either catching your clippings or mowing frequently enough that the clippings that come off are fine and they break down quickly, then you really shouldn't have a thatch problem. You shouldn't have a huge thatch buildup issue. If you follow good mowing practices. So yeah, thanks, Isaac. I agree with you. Spring is ideally a great time to do it. For both of those, but for cool season guys, you could probably get away with doing one in the early fall if you wanted to as well. But I agree, spring is the best time to do a lot of the more, I guess more aggressive cultural practices to your lawn. All right, next up is Autumn Henry. My baby Kins is in the live stream saying hi. What's going on, Autumn? What's going on, sweetie? Hey, thanks for coming to hang out. Appreciate you. Hopefully all is going well with you guys. I know you guys are out enjoying life in out in Denver, so hope you're having fun. And thanks again, congrats, and thanks for all the great news that you shared earlier today, which is fun. Great stuff. All right, next up is Jared J. Says, hey Ron, I mow with a TrueCut C27 now and would love to have access to the extra functions of the Allet mower. I'm on a budget. Is it cheaper to rent those machines or to just buy an Allet? It depends. It's probably, well, here's the thing. If all you're going to do is verticut, it's cheaper to rent it. But it would become cost prohibitive to rent a turf rake, for an entire season. You know what I mean? Like a power rake or a turf rake. Like that's not something you're going to want to hold on to the entire season. So, I mean, let's say you're going to do this. Let's say you're going to verticut and turf rake monthly. That's your goal when the grass is actively growing. It's going to be less expensive to rent the verticutter and to rent the turf rake if that's the way you're going to go. Because you'd rent it, say for May, you rent it for June. So May, June, July, August, September. So you'd rent it, you'd have like 5 rentals, and at like $60 or $70 for each piece of equipment. So let's call it $150, right? So $150 for each rental to rent both pieces of equipment. That is going to be cheaper than buying an Allet. However, the hassle factor is way higher. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you ever rented that equipment, but it's a huge pain to have to go rent the stuff, bring it home, use it, clean it up, take it back, and then repeat that the following month. And a huge negative that you're not going to get with any of the rentals is if you turf rake or verticut, all the debris is going to sit on the lawn. Meaning that if you use a rental turf rake or a rental verticutter, you then got to get out there with a grass rake after the fact and then rake all that debris, all that stuff up, and then dispose of it. So it's really a 3-step process. You're going to verticut, and then you're going to turf rake, and then you have to get out there and manually rake the entire lawn to get all the debris up. Whereas with an Allet, like all the stuff goes in a grass catcher. So after you make a few passes and you got all the debris, it's caught, you're able to take that off, dump it out, drop it back on the mower, and away you go. So it's a huge time saver that actually makes those processes a lot of fun. Like it's like turf raking actually becomes fun. Verticutting actually becomes fun because it's not any more work than mowing your lawn. You know what I mean? Whereas I can tell you from personal experience, like cleaning up after verticutting when all the debris goes back in the lawn isn't fun. Like there's no way I would do it monthly if I had to do what I did earlier this spring every single month. I'm just not going to do it because it's too much of a hassle. So if it were me, I would lean more towards buying the Allet. I would just save up and eventually get an Allet. So here's what we can do, Jared. I'll meet you in the middle. Really, if you can get a verticut in twice in the growing season, right? So let's say you're able to get one in the beginning of June and another one into, say, mid-July. That's going to do a lot for preserving the quality of cut throughout the growing season. You're not going to get a lot of the benefits of the turf raking because you're not going to have that. But if it takes you like an entire mowing season to save up to get the Allet, then renting a verticutter a couple of times, that's going to get you, that's going to prevent a lot of the cutting problems and scalping issues that you get from not doing verticutting, and is not going to break the bank to where you're going to be able to save up for the Allet. But I will tell you that you will be much happier having a mower that has the ability to catch all the debris that comes out of the lawn. I mean, if you were there at the turf park party, or if you've watched any of the stuff that I've done in the live streams when I've like turf raked the lawn on the live stream, like done it live, the amount of debris that comes out from doing that is substantial, and having to turf rake and clean all that up is kind of a mess. And frankly, you're not going to get it's not going to work as well, because like if you get out there with a grass rake, you're not going to get as many of the clippings up versus having like 95% of it go right into this catcher, into this bin. You know what I mean? So in general, the results you're going to get is going to be better with an outlet. The hassle factor is going to be way less than having to rent equipment, bring it home and take it back. And then just the entire process is much more enjoyable. So for those reasons, I'm going to say save up and spring for the outlet. I might even say this, right? If you can only afford to have one, and it pains me to say this, it's hurtful to say this, but if you get to the point where you're able to find a buyer for the True Cut, then, you know, I might even say save up as much as you can to get the outlet and whatever cartridges you want, and then sell the True Cut, or buy the outlet and then sell the True Cut to offset some of the price for it. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. You know what I mean? Because the outlet will do everything the True Cut will do, but not the other way around. So there you go. It's one of the few times Ron is out here telling you to sell a real mower. Mark it on your calendars. All right, next up is Dwayne's World. He's back. He says, Ron, with dithiopyr, as being that dithiopyr has some reach back capabilities, does this apply to all weeds? POA, for example? No, it applies to crabgrass. Crabgrass, unless I'm mistaken, is the only weed that has some post-emergent properties for it. It doesn't have reach back on all the other weeds on the label. And not enough that it's labeled to help with that. You know what I mean? So really, it's really for crabgrass you're going to see the benefits of the reach back, the very mild post-emergent properties of dithiopyr is against crabgrass, not against everything else. So for POA, your best bet is to prevent it in the first place. So if you have warm using grass, Dwayne, you can use Spectacle. Like, this is what you really want. I mean, if budget permitting, this is what you're going to want to use. This is in my opinion, the best single-use product for POA. Second best, a close second, is to use that combination of prodiamine, simazine, and imazaquin or image. Like, that works very well against POA. And then for the little that is going to break through, just smack it with certainty to get rid of it. That's going to be your best bet. But no, dithiopyr against crabgrass has to reach back, but not anything that's going to be beneficial for other weeds that's labeled to help control. So hope that helps, sir. Let me know if I can answer anything else. All right, next up is Half. He has some questions here. It's a good one. He says, what options do we have for manual dethatching, power raking, or verticutting? I don't want to buy a whole machine. Are there any hand tools available? Yes. So there is a dethatch rake. I got to tell you, having used one, let me see, dethatching rake. You're going to get a workout using one of these guys. It looks like a medieval torture device. It's got like, it's solid blades, and it's kind of curved. So I can find one. Here we go. This one right here. Yep, this guy. This is a thatch rake. Gotta tell you, it's a workout to use one of these guys, but this is a way that you can actually verticut your lawn manually. Let's see, at Half, and a dethatching rake. There you go. So that's a rake you can use for doing it. I can show you what it looks like here. We can go to the Amazon. This guy right here. So switch over. Yeah. So this guy can do it. This is what you can use for dethatching. You see how it's got the hooks, like the slightly curved teeth, like that is that's what you can use. Again, it's a workout. It's a workout, but that will pull a lot of the light debris that's in, like a lot of the thatch buildup that's in your lawn. It'll pull a lot of that out. So yeah, something like that will do the trick as far as a manual way of removing the debris out of your lawn. For verticutting, I don't know of a manual way to verticut your lawn. I do not. I don't know I've never seen a manual verticutter. I can't think of I don't think I've ever seen that machine. Yeah, so a powered one will help. And then Half is saying Pennant Magnum will prevent sedges as well as Kalinga. So there you go. So he's chiming in on a pre-emergent that will work for it. Is it labeled for all of those? Let's see here. Let me look here. Pennant. That's one herbicide one pre-emergent I've not used. Pennant Magnum. Let's see. What is it labeled? What is it labeled for? It is, yeah, so it's labeled for crabgrass, yellow nut sedge, and others. So will it do all of them half or just some? But yeah, that's cool. It looks like this is, let's see, Kalinga. Looks like that it is labeled for that. So yeah, so thanks for chiming in half. I'll also look into this one, into Pennant. It's one I've not used before. So good. Thanks for chiming in on a pre-emergent that has some effectiveness against sedges and Kalinga. Good stuff. And hopefully that helps for you as far as your turf rake, as far as your manual turf raking option goes. But again, I got to warn you, those things are a workout. All right, next up is JK. He says, getting a French drain installed next week. How deep do they dig to prevent issues with turf growth? Also, anything I need to do with the damaged turf since we're heading into dormancy soon? I don't know. I mean, if you're having a professional service do it, JK, they should be. They should, because what happens when they'll do a French drain, they'll install it, and a lot of the ones that I've seen, they'll put like a rock bed over it. But yeah, I would whatever if you're using a professional service to do it, which I highly recommend, don't do it yourself. Talk to them and say, hey, make sure that you guys are burying it deep enough or trenching it deep enough to not cause problems in other parts of the lawn. It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. So I would, whatever the, I've never installed one myself, so I can't, I don't have an actual answer for you, but if you're using a reputable service to install it, it should be fine. Call them if they're doing it next week. Call them ahead of time and just make sure you bring that up to them. Say, hey, listen, I'm really sensitive about my grass, and I want make sure you guys are burying it or installing it such that it doesn't cause problems for other parts of the turf, and you should be fine. I'll tell you what, once you find out, JK, what they end up doing, let me know. Come back in the live stream and tell us. Because again, I've never installed a French drain myself. I've not done one myself. I've not had one installed to be able to answer your question, unfortunately. Next up is John Williams. It says, hey, Ace. It's the first time I've been called that, okay? It says, just got some sod of St. Augustine, and I just got some sod in of St. Augustine, and I had to get some ... What should I do to have the best success, and what should I expect to happen planting it this time of year? Please help. Thanks. So here's the thing. I've never sodded St. Augustine this time of year, John. I've never sodded St. Augustine, period. And I would imagine it depends on where you are in the country. We don't really have St. Augustine lawns around here. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anyone around nearby here that has St. Augustine. I don't recall ever seeing St. Augustine nearby. If you're in Florida or a part of the country where there's still some warm weather and it's going to have a chance to root in, it's probably going to be fine. I imagine it's going to root in fine. As far as things that are going to help you have the best success, ensuring you get water on it, ensuring that that once it does get established, you mow it. The things that you do, there's nothing special. Whatever you do, the same stuff you do for Bermuda, the same stuff you do for zoysia, the same you do for any other grass that you establish by sod would apply here as well. I've just never installed St. Augustine from sod to be able to tell you if there's anything special that it requires. I don't imagine really that there is, other than making sure you keep water on it so it doesn't dry out, and then you should be good to go. I imagine you're probably in Texas or Florida, because those are the parts of the country where I get a lot of questions from viewers that actually have St. Augustine. So if you're somewhere in Texas where there's still plenty of warm weather, it should be fine. The big thing I would say immediately after installation is make sure you don't allow it to dry out. And outside of that, you take care of it like you take care of any other grass type. All right, next up is Alex. So he did say, yep. It says, thanks for coming out to hang out in the live stream and learning more about your lawn goals. Thanks for coming to hang out, Alex. I really appreciate you, sir. Always fun knowing that you're hanging out and supporting the show. And then next is Hustleonian says, hi, Ron. I know it's not good to use herbicides when Bermuda's coming out of dormancy in the spring. Is it true for Is the same true for Bermuda going into dormancy in the fall? Thanks. So here's the thing: using it, can you spray Bermuda coming out of dormancy in the spring? Yes, but it's going to slow down the green up. Can you also spray herbicide on Bermuda going into dormancy in the fall? Yes, it's not. I mean, I'd almost say that doing it spring herbicides on it. If I had a choice between the two, I would be more inclined to do it when it's going into dormancy versus when it's coming out of dormancy, because you're not going to really care if there's some mild discoloration now because the lawn's turning brown anyway. But in the springtime, especially when a lot of you guys are competitive and you want your lawn to green up as fast or sooner than your neighbors, like smacking a lawn that is coming out of dormancy with a herbicide is again, you're not going to kill it, but you are going to slow down green up. You are going to slow down the green up, again, by a little bit, but it's not going to like permanently damage or hurt the lawn. As far as spraying herbicides on your lawn now, I don't really see an issue with doing that if there's a weed that you're trying to target. I mean, really, this time of year, what would you be trying to target? POA. So if you have POA already growing in your lawn, I could see you spraying like Certainty this time of year. But outside of pre-emergent, there's not really a ton that you should be having to hit your lawn with this time of year, Hustlonian. But yeah, to answer your question, you're not going to kill the grass if you spray your herbicides at the correct rate. You're not going to kill Bermuda if you spray it when it's coming out of dormancy or when it's going into dormancy. The reason why I'm not a huge fan of doing it when it's coming out, meaning when it's when it's waking up and trying to go into the growing season, is that you can slightly stunt the growth of it for a short period of time. Going into dormancy is not as big a deal because, again, the lawn's starting to check out anyway. So hope that helps, sir. Next up is Jim Carson. He says, are you going to have your lawnmower event the same day as the IMSA race is held next year? I don't know. First of all, it's not my lawnmower event. It's Real Rollers' lawnmower event. They just are nice enough to let me come out and bring my mowers out and hang out there. So it's Real Rollers. I don't know when it is. Are you talking about like, there's a couple events that happen nearby at Road Atlanta. There's the Drift Atlanta event. There is Petit Le Mans, which I think has already happened. I'm not sure, but I don't know. You'd have to ask Real Rollers when they plan to do it. Why? Does that make it easier for you, Jim? Would you be more likely to travel if it's around the same time? But yeah, I don't know. You have to ask Real Rollers, or I can ask them. I can ask Lee or Andrew when they plan to do it again next year and see if it can be stacked around the time as the race. Here's the thing: we tried like this year when it was done, or this past weekend. The one negative of doing it the weekend we did it is that I think the Georgia, the Bulldogs were playing at home. So some people went to the game instead of coming to the event. So it's almost better from an attendance standpoint to do it when there's not like a competing event the same weekend. So there is that consideration as well. But I'll ask them and see, we'll look at the Road Atlanta calendar and see, hey, if it happens to work out. All right, next up is Siraj Malhotra. He's here. He says, hey, Ron, and everyone enjoying the live stream. I spread Headway G about a week ago, but I noticed mushrooms in the yard yesterday. How long does it take to go into effect? I did it as a preventative, but the mushrooms surprised me. Yeah, so Headway is not going to really do a lot against mushrooms. I have not, as far as a way to prevent mushrooms, it's more for preventing diseases like brown patch. This time of year is really for preventing spring dead spot next year. But for brown patch, large patch, dollar spot, which we likely wouldn't have this time of year, those are the diseases it's designed to treat. As far as mushrooms, I've never applied fungicides or applied Headway as a way to prevent mushrooms in my lawn. I'll tell you, the thing that actually did a lot to help to keep mushrooms out of my lawn this growing season, was regular turf raking, because the amount of thatch that's in my lawn is not that much. I mean, there's still a little bit, but it's very, very, the little bit that's there is not enough to hold on to a ton of moisture, which mushrooms like, and to cause them to pop up in the morning. So that's one side benefit that I got out of introducing turf raking to my lawn this season, Siraj, is I didn't get, as far as lawn diseases like large patch, summer patch, and any of those types of problems, I didn't get any of that this year at all. And as far as mushrooms, I didn't have that in my lawn in the mornings as well. And I normally have that, especially when it's wet. Like if we had like a big rain shower, typically the days following after a lot of rain going into a lot of moisture going into the soil, I'll get mushrooms early in the morning, and then by 10 o'clock they go away. But this year there was not very much of that at all, and I attribute that to like really managing how much debris or thatch was in the lawn. So so Headway is not really designed to prevent mushrooms, so I would not be surprised that you still have some. That's not what it's really designed to treat. All right, next up is Alton J. He says, "Hey Ron, how did you get into IT? Classroom, help desk, self-taught, etc. I promise to ask a lawn question later. Thanks." So I've always been inclined to technology type subjects, right? So I'm a person that is like I'm able to visualize things that you don't see really well. So people that do well in technology are good at abstract thinking. So being able to understand or being able to visualize how computers communicate, being able to visualize how like the flow of network traffic, being able to do those types of things. If you're the kind of person that is more, that your brain just is more inclined to those types of things. Like a good example, growing up as a kid, I was really into RC cars. I'm like building like the real ones, like building them from scratch, like assembling them, like modifying them. I was really into when I was a teenager and went off to school for a while. I got into RC helicopters. So anything that's like really technical in nature, where you have to really pay attention, and it means, and being good at it means understanding things that you can't really see with your eyes, but you have to just trust that they're there. That is something that I've always been drawn to. Now, as far as how I learned, I'm a big reader. I'm really big into reading. Like when I was younger, we still had these things called encyclopedias in homes. Like I don't think anybody buys encyclopedias anymore, but my parents bought encyclopedias, and I would just read them. I'd like, when I wanted to learn about how helicopters work, I literally we had Encyclopedia Britannica. I actually got one out, and I would actually read like that one section on that. I wanted to learn how airplanes work or how wings worked. That's like I learned a lot of that from reading. And when it comes to IT, it was in many ways largely self-taught. So I would I was always interested in how computers communicated. So I bought like I think it was his name, the Richard Stevens book on TCP/IP, which is like a book this thick that's all about the subject of IP and protocols and how routing protocols work, how address resolution protocol works, how everything in the OSI layer, in the logical stack of how computer systems, everything that's a computer, from your mobile phone to the computers I'm talking to you on right now, how traffic works and how it flows between them. I read and made it a point to really understand that type of stuff, and then I would build networks. And I mean, I was a tinker, kind of like how I am with lawns. Is the same ways how I am with most things. Like when it came into getting into IT, it was very much the same way. So I would read, and then I would try and apply it. So okay, I think this is how a network's supposed to work. This is how a firewall is supposed to work. I'm going to build my own, and try and go outside the bounds. Try and see which, like, if I do things, if I send too much traffic, or if I try and port scan through across it, like at what point does the state table fill up and cause it to tip over? Whenever I read, say, on a subject, and it says this is conventional wisdom of how this is supposed to work, it's the way my brain always works. I've always been this way. I will obviously start with that, and then I'll say, well, how far away from that can you really get and still get a good result? And what happens when you get towards the edges of it, towards the fringes of it? Which is why like information security is a good field for me, because like that kind of thinking is really good for it, because you tend to think about a lot about you spend a lot of time thinking about what is possible, like what something can do versus what something is designed to do. Like the best hackers are people that will look at a system and say, yeah, it's designed to send an email, or it's designed to be a calculator, but what can I make it do? If I'm able to find a vulnerability, how can I change the flow of execution to make it do something that it's not intended to do? You know what I mean? So yeah, largely self-taught. And even to this day, I spend a lot of time reading, and I enjoy it. Like I will tell you, Alton, if you want to get into IT, the best people that are the people that are best at it are probably like the people that are best at grass, or the people that are best at like race cars, the people that are the best at anything. You have to have a passion for it. You really have to enjoy it, because if you rely on people only telling you like, hey, this is how you do XYZ, this is how a computer works, this is how a network works, or this is how grass works, and you're not someone that really wants to dig into these subjects yourself and learn for yourself and make mistakes, and you're the like how far you're going to be able to go is going to be limited. So it's, I'd say more than anything else, is just having a real big interest into it and just going at it. Just pick up a book and start reading, and realize that most of it's going to sound like a foreign language, but if you read and apply it often enough, eventually it begins to make sense. The dots begin to connect, and it begins to make sense. So hope that helps. Largely self-taught, but courses and training can be good too. But I mean, the best technologists are people that have a passion about it. A good example, take a look at like Elon Musk, right? He doesn't have a formal background in astrophysics or in rocket design. So, but he's a really smart guy, and has you say he's a voracious learner, right? So he spends a lot of time learning about stuff, and he surrounds himself with a lot of really smart people. And you can see like the success that his companies have had, largely because he's just willing to try it and not being afraid to make mistakes. So that's my my small 2-minute soapbox on on IT and how to get into it. I would say you have to have a passion for it. You have to really enjoy it and enjoy the subject to become good at it. All right, next up is Brandon Tucker. He says, how are you? A local golf course has 5 2012 Flex 2100s with no reel, but they run good for 300. Are they worth getting? That's a good question, Brandon. I don't know, man, because I mean, what are you going to need to finish it? Like, I mean, what else are you going to need to be able to complete the mower? Is it just buying the cutting head? Is that it? Is it outside of the cutting head? Is everything else with it? So yeah, I mean, I guess if you can find a cutting head for a reasonable price, and yeah, it could be a good deal. But I don't know, $300 for just a bare bone. I don't know, $300 for just a mower and engine, if it's mechanically sound, that actually doesn't sound too bad. But I would, before I went and got one, I would also make sure you're able to find a cutting head for it. You can check for that. Look up Prairie Turf Equipment. I mean, there's other places too, but they Prairie Turf Equipment in Manitoba. Prairie Turf Equipment. I mean, again, and obviously there's places within the states that obviously carry it too, but these guys will often have pre-owned stuff, used equipment that you can. They'll have like cutting heads and that kind of stuff. So make sure you find. Yeah. So perfect example. So let's show here. I can show you here. So their website. So Prairie Turf, and these guys are out of Manitoba, Canada. This is where I actually got my Greensmaster. If you go to their used equipment walking mower section, so they got full mowers here, like some Jacobsons, but they also have like some cutting heads. So you got like a brand new Toro 14 blade Flex 21 or 2120. Now you would not want a 14 blade for your home lawn. This is overkill. You're gonna want like an 8 blade or maybe an 11 blade at the most. This is not one you'd get, but if you look at the price of it, it's like almost $2,000. I mean, they're brand new, but I mean, for $2,000, you can buy a complete 2100. You know what I mean? So I would make sure that you can find a cutting head that has the reel count that makes sense for your lawn, for your turf type, and have that lined up before you buy one of these. Because what you might find is the cost of buying just a cutting head in decent shape might be cost prohibitive. I mean, look here, you got like I don't know, these are all Jacobsons, but I mean, that's the best advice I'd give you. If you $300 in itself for just the mower, yes, good price. But if you got to go around and spend $2,000 on a cutting head, then it's not such a good deal, right? So make sure you can find one before you go out and pick one up. Hope that helps. But it sounds, I mean. And again, make sure that if you're getting one from the golf course, that the only thing you need for it is the cutting head. Like it comes with everything else other than just the cutting head for it. All right, Isaac says a creeping fescue is also really shade tolerant. Thanks for chiming in, Isaac. Appreciate you. And then Alton J says, hey Ron, a long question. I hear a lot about PGR. What exactly does it do for the lawn? Thanks. Okay, so plant growth regulator. I've got some here. What I like is one called Primo Max. There's tons of different types, but Primo, the active ingredient in it is a chemical called trinexapac ethyl, and in a short explanation, what it does is it interrupts or suppresses the enzyme that the grass needs to grow tall. So the stalk of the grass, the rate at which the stalk of the grass grows can slow down by as much as 50%. So what that does is a couple of things. One, it reduces how often you have to get out there and mow, in some cases as much as 50%. But the other benefits of it is that it helps with suppressing seed heads. A side benefit is you tend to get a darker color in the turf, not because this has any kind of fertilizer or anything like that in it, but because the grass is growing a lot more slowly. You're not cutting off as much leaf each time you mow. So what I tend to do is, even though PGR reduces mowing by as much as 50%, I really don't reduce how often I cut the grass. I still, during the peak summer times, I'll still get out there and I'll still mow every other day. Not much comes off, but what you're gonna find is the color is going to be like the nice, deep, vibrant green is going to maintain its color a lot better. Again, you're as far as just helping improve the hardiness of the turf, PGR is helpful towards that. And as far as like seed head suppression, it's also helpful for that. So there's really tons of benefits to it. I'm trying to think if there's any negatives to PGR. Not really. Well, there is one. If you apply it at full rate, right? So say you are only going to do it once per month, because the active ingredient in this works for between 3 to 4 weeks. If you only apply it once per month and you don't mix like a liquid fertilizer along with it, you can get a little bit of temporary discoloration called tip burn a few days after application. Now, the way to get around that is if you are going to apply Primo on your lawn, you can take the monthly rate that is correct for your grass type, and cut that in half. So for example, for Bermuda, you can use, for hybrids, you can say the rate is up to it's right about 0.4. The high rate is like 0.4 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet over the course of a month. So what you can do is, instead of applying that heavy rate for hybrid once per month, you could do a 0.2 at the beginning of the month, and then another 0.2 at the middle of the month, and that's going to get you that's going to cause you to not exceed the max rate, and the chance of you getting tip burn is going to be a lot reduced. So in other words, if you are willing to get out there and spray your lawn twice per month, then there really is no negative other than you have to get out there twice a month to do it. So I've got videos on how to use PGR, how to do the split app process, like the methodology behind doing that. For me, there's only upside, especially if you are someone that's real mowing. You're absolutely going to use PGR, because whenever you get to the point where you're when the peak of the summer gets here, like late June, July timeframe, like it is really, really difficult to keep up with your lawn unless you can slow down how quickly it's growing. So PGR is a great tool for both warm season and cool season grass. So for cool season grass in the spring and fall timeframe, like this timeframe, you could be using PGR as long as, again, the grass is actively growing. And then for warm season grass, I start my applications in late April and I apply all the way through September. So the general rule is, whenever the grass is actively growing, you can use growth regulator and see a lot of those benefits. So, and it's not really that expensive. If you figure this bottle of Primo is $41, $42 and will cover 16,000 square feet. So if you have the imaginary 4,000 square foot lawn, that gets you 4 applications over the course of a growing season. So you could technically get by with one of these over the course of a growing season if you have a smaller lawn. If you have a bigger lawn, you may have to buy more than one bottle or look into other sizes. But for what it costs and the benefits you get from it, I think it's well worth it. And for most people, because they're already out there anyway spraying your lawn, so if you have if you're out there spraying a liquid fertilizer on your lawn anyway, you can literally mix this along with it, and you're not really having to go out and do an application just for growth regulator. So it's pretty awesome. Once you start using it, you'll wonder why you waited so long. It's like literally one of the best things you can do for your grass, and it's not that expensive. All right, DH Design says, thanks. You're very, very welcome, DH. And then Glenn Jordan is also chiming in here. He says, Pennant Magnum is a decent option to prevent sedges as a pre-emergent. It has an annual and yellow sedges on nut sedge on the label. Spectacle also has sedges on the label, but neither are perfect. So there you go. So I've used Spectacle in the fall for a number of years. And I still get sedges. I still have some breakthrough with sedges in my lawn. Pennant Magnum I've never used. Maybe I just want to try out. I mean, maybe I'll get some Pennant Magnum and give that a shot next year. Maybe we can see how it does as far as preventing it. But again, to your point, it's almost like doveweed. Doveweed is difficult as far as a pre-emergent to prevent doveweed. It's tough. It's a tough one to take care of. And sedges are one of those things that for me, sedges and the occasional spurge are the only real weeds that I really have to deal with in my lawn. Crabgrass, pre-emergent does a great job against that. And again, sedges and spurge along where I edge is what I have to deal with. So thanks for chiming in, Glenn. And maybe that's something for me to try out this upcoming season. Try out some Pennant Magnum because I've not. That's one pre-emergent I've not tried. It'd be cool to see next year how it does against sedges. Be cool to see. All right, next up is Ahmad Jones. He says, I live in Memphis and I will not scout my lawn at this time. You answered my question earlier. Our frost will be here next week. Wow, you guys are getting frost already in Memphis? Yeah, so yeah, guys, anything that is going to introduce stress to the lawn, I would not do this time of year. Not a good time to do it. Really, scalping, verticutting, dethatching, those are things are better to do in the springtime when you've got the entire mowing season, the entire growing season ahead of you for the lawn to recover from it. John Williams is up next. He says, what kind of info do you have for killing moles? I put some smoke bombs down to kill them. Do those things leave? I didn't see anything else. Any other question? So there's a couple different options. You can eliminate their food source. You can use traps. There was something that a viewer asked about last week. I forget what it was, but it's some kind of this spike thing you put down in their tunnels, and they walk in. I guess when they walk into it, it collapses, and that will trap and then kill them. But it's a combination of things. You can use eliminate their food source with like an insecticide. You can use traps. You can use poisons. In my case, it was more personal. We flooded him out, and the Enforcer Allet had a heavy application of the stick that will work. But it's a combination of things to get rid of them. I can tell you I'll give you the mole poison that some viewers have used and they've gotten good results with. There's one called Talprid and one called Tomcat. So this is the one that I've recommended to some viewers and they've had good results with it. So this guy here, John. But just know it's a multi-pronged approach. It's not one thing. It's not one thing. And in my case, my example, I got fairly lucky that we caught him or her in the act, and we were able to flood it out and then get rid of it. And I knock on wood, I have not had another one since then. Hopefully, don't come back because moles stink. I talk about, they are in my list of things you really don't want in your lawn. You don't want lawn disease. You don't want lawn disease. You don't want, and moles are right up there with it. You don't want lawn disease. You don't want armyworms or insect damage, and moles are right up there with those things. I'm trying to think. I almost would rather have a lawn fungus than have moles in my lawn. That's tough to say, but I'd almost rather, like, moles are just because they're such an eyesore. What they do to the lawn is just physically it hurts. It hurts, man. It's just not good. So yeah. It's a multi-pronged approach, John. Take a look at that product, and again, sorry that you're dealing with that, but between poisons, traps, also that's another thing I forgot to mention. Making sure you're limiting how much water you put on the lawn, because moles do like a softer soil to be able to burrow through. It's easier for them to get through it. So not like refraining from overwatering. That combination of things will help prevent mole problems in your lawn, or at least if anything, they'll make your lawn less attractive and make them go somewhere else. So hope that helps. Dimitri says, you're lucky you have no trees. I cut over 20 at my house just to have Bermuda and zoysia grow. I don't like fescue. I'm going to try seeding Zenith zoysia in the backyard with the trees. Yeah, give it a shot and see. I mean, just go into it knowing that it may not work. Because zoysia, while it is more shade tolerant than Bermuda, it still needs a lot of sunlight. It's not like the creeping fescue that some people mention, or something like the fine fescues that can really get by with not a lot of sunlight. All right, Uncle Bobo says, "What are your thoughts on Lawn Star products? Have never used them, so I can't comment on them." All right, next up is Jim Carson. He says, "I have weeds, foxtails, something similar to spurge, and common Bermuda in my backyard. I want to kill them. What should I use?" This is on the other part of my yard. So for foxtails and spurge, I want to say Celsius. For spurge, Celsius will definitely do that. I want to say this should be able to take care of those. Common Bermuda, ugh, man, you're looking at glyphosate or Fusilade. Those two will do it. So Fusilade will kill the common Bermuda, but it's also going to kill the hybrid too. So I guess I'm trying to understand, Jim, do you want something that will nuke in other words, are you trying to selectively kill the common Bermuda, or are you trying to just to like go scorched earth in that area of the lawn? In other words, if you're trying to take a non-selective approach, then glyphosate and Fusilade will take care of everything you've listed there. It'll kill the spurge, it'll kill the foxtails, and it will kill the common Bermuda. If you're trying to preserve I guess you have hybrid mixed in with the common, then there's not really a selective herbicide that I'm aware of that will kill common Bermuda and not damage the hybrid in the process. So for the foxtails and the spurge, Celsius, that will do it. For the common Bermuda, glyphosate and or Fusilade. Glyphosate and Fusilade will do it. But again, that's that combination. Fusilade is selective if you have fescue. So if you have fescue or zoysia, then if you have fescue or zoysia, then you can use Fusilade to selectively get rid of the Bermuda. If you have Bermuda, or you have, like I had a viewer last week that had St. Augustine and they used Fusilade, and it's not labeled to be safe for St. Augustine. So you have to have, I think it's the two grasses are fescue and zoysia. Those are the ones that Fusilade is labeled as being safe to use to remove Bermuda in those grass types. And then I would use, again, something like Celsius for the it depends what kind of grass type you have, because if you have zoysia, then Fusilade and Celsius to get rid of the spurge and foxtails will work. If you have fescue, so you have cool season grass, and you can't use Celsius because it will damage it. So it depends what kind of grass you have. Like it really comes down to what kind of grass do you have. Like what are you trying to keep, and what are you? I know what you're trying to kill, but what are you trying to keep? So if you're just going scorched earth, then glyphosate Fusilade is an easy way to go. It's not a terribly expensive way to go, and that will kill all of that. But if you're trying to preserve a particular grass type, then I need to know what that is before I can tell you like what to use to selectively kill the common Bermuda and not kill your grass in the process. So hope that helps. All right. Half is up next. He says, "I did a soil test a couple of weeks ago, and the results were very different than the test I did in the spring. From the extension office, I posted in a group and they said to rely on the extension office test." So what I would say, Half, is pick one and stick with it. That's what I would say. Soil test, I mean, as far as I would not go get a soil test from my soil and then go get one from one extension office and then go get one from another extension office. I would pick one and stick with it, because the idea behind soil testing is the methods of how they test, or they test for nutrients, can be different. Like the ion exchange method of measuring the amount of available nutrients in the soil is different to the way that some of the extension offices use. So I would pick one and stick with it. It's almost like the example I use, and the best one I have is one that I can always, if you're a car person, it makes sense to you. It's of the way how a chassis dyno works, right? Whenever you go out and you say you're modifying your car, you're doing a bunch of engine upgrades, and you want to measure the performance of how much power, like everything you're doing is what it's doing as far as the amount of horsepower and torque that combination of upgrades is doing is you take your car to a shop, they strap it to this tool called a chassis dyno, and what it does is it spins these rollers and it does some math and it measures, and based on how quickly the car is able to spin up the rollers, it measures, it does a calculation and figures out how much torque and horsepower the engine is making. All right. A dyno jet, which is one type of dyno, which is an inertia dyno, works that way. If you take and it will produce 1 horsepower and 1 torque rating. If you take the exact same car, same engine, same everything, and say you could have like a dyno jet right next to you in the same shop, and like a dyno like a Mustang dyno, which is it's like a low, it can produce a constant load to the car to measure torque, or to the engine to measure torque. It's going to produce a different number. So to say that the dyno jet is which is more correct? Is the dyno jet number accurate? Is the Mustang dyno number accurate? You can't really say that one is accurate and one isn't accurate. They're both measuring horsepower. They're both measuring torque. What you should find is the profile should be similar, meaning that what I would expect to see is if you got a soil test from the extension office, and if your nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus levels where they're varying levels of that, what I would expect is that the curve between different soil tests should be similar. The actual values, I would not expect them to match. I would expect them to be different. Much like a car that's measured on 2 different dynos, like the horsepower and torque numbers will be different, but the horsepower curve, the torque curves should be fairly similar. So I say all that to say that really, much like a dyno, a soil test is really good for measuring the deltas between. It's good for measuring the applications you make to the soil, how it's changing over time. And the only way to really do that is to take one testing methodology or one way that you decide you're going to go with and stick with that. So if you're going to go with an extension office, stick with an extension office and ideally send all your soil test samples to the same one, because then you're comparing apples to oranges. But don't get like a my soil test done by one time and go to an extension office another time. You're just going to be chasing your tail. I am a fan of the my soil test because, one, they are easy to read. And being able to compare your test results over time is made especially easy because they're all saved. So if you want to see, if you want to be able to easily compare your spring soil test to your fall soil test, it makes it really easy to do that. So that's what I would say. It's not like one is not more accurate than another. They are both accurate, but I would not try and compare them against each other, because again, the best example is the one I just gave you. It's like trying to compare the horsepower and torque numbers from 2 different dynos and saying one is more correct than the other. It's just the way they're measuring is completely different. So hope that helps. Pick one and stick with it. That's what I would tell you. All right. Next up is Dimitri. He says, "Oh, good point on the fungicide. Thanks for the reminder. I have to order that too." You're very welcome, Dimitri. Yep. So as far as fungicide apps, I'm a fan of doing them in the spring and fall. The spring ones to prevent large patch, summer patch in your lawn, and then in the fall apps for me are all about preventing spring dead spot. So I do one. I've already done one in October, and I'm going to do another one the end of this month, early November. And the goal between that and limiting how much nitrogen I'm putting into the soil, hopefully, is going to keep spring dead spot out of my lawn. So hope that helps. Hope that helps, Dimitri. It's a good idea to do it, in my opinion. All right, next up is Uncle Bobo. He says, "I overseeded with Barenbrug RTF this past September. What is a good height to keep it at during the fall in preparation for winter?" Here's the thing. I don't have warm season grass or cool season grass, Uncle Bobo. I would say whatever what is RTF? What type of grass? Is it a fescue? Let me see. Barenbrug, because fescue is normally what, 4 inches or taller is what it really likes. Barenbrug RTF. What kind of grass is that? It's got an F in the end, so I'm guessing it's a fescue, maybe. I don't know. That is, yeah. So RTF looks like it's tall fescue. Yeah. So I would just cut it whatever the height that fescue, like whatever height is correct for mowing tall fescue is what I would use. So typically 4 inches or taller. Like fescue, it's in the name, it likes to be cut tall. So mow it at that height and call it good. I would not like try and cut it short or scalp it or do anything like that. I would mow the fescue at the height that particular grass type thrives at being, the height that it thrives at being mowed at. So I would not do anything outside of that. All right, next up is Dalvin Larry. He says, speaking of soil tests, I applied a triple 12 the entire season based off my soil test, and it seems as nothing has changed. Most of my numbers actually dropped. My micronutrients declined as well from summer to fall. So it could be then, Dalvin, I'm not sure what rate you were using on the triple 12, because let's say you were applying the triple 12 at I don't know, 5 pounds per 1,000. So we take like 5 times 0.12. So if you're applying the triple 12 once per month at 5 pounds per 1,000, that's really only 0.6 of a pound of nitrogen, which really isn't enough throughout the growing season. So unless you were supplementing that with like your spraying liquids or you were applying at a heavier rate, that really isn't enough to meet the macronutrient requirements of Bermuda over the course of the entire growing season. You know what I mean? So if you the rate of, or the makeup of the product on the bag, or the formulation on the bag is one thing, but also it really still comes down to application rate. So without knowing what rate you were using, it's difficult to know why you saw a reduction in your levels. I'm guessing that if you applied it like 5 pounds per 1,000, which is a pretty common rate that people tend to use for those products, for the triple 12 products, and then you only did that, it probably is not. It's not enough. That's not enough for Bermuda over the course of the growing season. So I'm not surprised that you saw a reduction in your numbers. All right, you said just emailed you my test. Cool. Yeah, man. I'll take a look at it, Dalvin, and I will get you my thoughts at the end of the live stream. If you don't mind, send me also, if you can, I know you sent me the test, but also tell me if you can, email me again and let me know what application rate you were using for the triple 12. That would be useful to know. And if you also have the soil test from earlier this year, if you can send me that as well, that would be good too. Good stuff. All right. Next up is Half. He says, my pH is at 5.9. I'm going to do a winter lime to get it into the 6 to 6.5 range. Sounds good. Maybe I'm close enough, but I'm hoping the higher pH will help keep weeds out. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to hurt. One thing I would say, Half, is whatever soil test you're going to go with, whichever, whether it be the Miles Soil or the Extension Office, look at your magnesium levels and then use that to decide on which lime product you go with. Because if your magnesium levels are low, pick up a dolomitic lime and apply that instead of a calcitic if your magnesium levels are fine. So that's the only other tip I'd give you if you're, as far as your lime applications, to try and raise your pH a bit. 5.9, to your point, that's on the bubble. That's not bad, but I mean, mid-6s is better. So yeah, now's the time of year to get that down and to raise those, to help raise your pH in preparation for springtime. All right, Jim Carson is next. He says, I am in SoCal. My soil temps are still above 75 degrees. They look like they are trending down. 95-degree air temps last week. Yeah, so it sounds like, Jim, you're getting pretty close to the point where you could be looking at doing pre-emergent. I mean, you're still a little bit up there, but I mean, again, it's a bit early is better than late. Bit early is better than late when it comes to pre-emergent. Brick Rehab is up. He says, doesn't matter what you say, Ron. When I finally buy a real mower, I'm blaming you. Not my fault. I'm just telling you. I show you the results of it. You spend your money the way you want to spend it. But I will wholeheartedly endorse buying a real mower. It's a good thing to do for your lawn. All right. Thomas also says, would renting lawn equipment increase the chances of introducing contaminants in your lawn? Common Bermuda, dove wheat, or pedo grass, to name some. Yeah, that's a good point. That's another good point, Thomas. Unless you're going to do a good job cleaning the equipment when you first get it, each time, that's an excellent point. If you watch any of my videos on aeration, I'm a big fan of telling you to make sure you rinse it, clean it up really well before you put it on your lawn, because you don't know where that aerator has been. And the same would apply to a turf rake or a dethatcher or any other piece of equipment that you're going to bring in that's from a rental place. Most rental places, most good ones anyway, do a pretty good job of cleaning up the equipment prior to renting it to you, but you should still clean it yourself, right? You still want to make sure that fully clean before you put it on your lawn. That's a good point. You know, that's another thing that having your own equipment, you know, keeps you away from. You don't have to worry about bringing disease, weeds, and this kind of thing into your lawn. So that's a good point that I did not mention as well, Thomas. You're very, very welcome, Half. He says, thanks. I might get one to use on my St. Augustine so I can avoid hurting the stolons. All right. And next up is Steve Jackson. He says, sorry to miss last week. On my question, I was at a high school football game. Lawn update. I sprayed Roundup on my immediate front yard to Homer 31. Dealer recommends to spray now to renovate in the spring. All right, cool. Sounds good. And the Tahoma 31 is so dense that it will kill out other Bermudas that survives. We'll keep you updated. So they're saying that you put in Tahoma 31 that it will choke out other Bermudas. Interesting. Interesting, Steve. Interesting. You have to keep me posted on how that works out. All right, next up is Half. He says, oh, I remember my other question. I think of so many throughout the week, but they never come up to mind during the live stream. LOL. But I use a riding mower, but my St. Augustine seems to not stand up like other people on YouTube's. Is that because they use push mowers? I finally bought a push mower thinking of trying it out, but it needs to be sharpened before. I've tried changing mowing patterns. Any other advice? Let's see. I cut on the highest setting, but it just doesn't seem to grow straight up like on YouTube. That's a good question. Would the riding mower cause it to lay it down more? If the cutting height is set tall enough, like the deck is set tall enough, I imagine wherever the tires run over it, like I imagine that to be mashed down. But where the deck runs, I would expect that to be okay. I don't know. Half. I look at if you look at Allen's grass, like his St. Augustine, his stands up pretty tall, is fairly crunchy. And I'm fairly certain he doesn't turf rake or do anything to help make it stand up. I mean, he obviously fertilizes it and mows it and takes care of it, runs a good nutrient program. But yeah, I can't see. I'm trying to think of what would cause it to get all matted and laid down. Yeah, I don't know on that one, man. I don't know on that one but even like the grass or the St. Augustine you see on YouTube, all of it doesn't all grow straight up like a fescue does. I mean, it might be a lot thicker, and there might be some that seems to grow pointing up, but it's just, I think maybe what you're confusing is a really thick and dense St. Augustine lawn versus one that's a bit thinner. So without pictures of your lawn, it's hard to say for sure, but I'm fairly certain that, at least with Alan anyway, I'm fairly certain he's not doing anything as far as turf raking or doing any of that kind of stuff. He's not doing anything special to make his lawn look the way that it looks as far as the St. Augustine appearing to stand up. His lawn is very thick. It's very dense. So if your lawn is on the thinner side, that might be what you're seeing as far as it seeming to lay down. Having the mower being sharp, yeah, that's important. But again, even that, when we think about this, if you're not using a sharp mower blade, that could push the grass down instead of cutting it nice and cleanly. It could. I mean, I'll put it this way: if your mower's not sharp, that is not helping the problem. We'll just say that way. I don't know if that's definitely causing it, but cutting your lawn with a dull mower is not doing you any favors. So I would say just start with the basics. Sharpen the mower. Make sure your cutting height is nice and tall. It sounds like that's the case. And then see. I can't think of anything else that's really causing your grass to really lay down, because again, outside of where the tires are running, I would not expect the entire lawn to be matted down by the fact that you're using a zero turn. Because even think about it, even like the Freedom Factory, which Alan cuts with he cuts it with a battle cruiser. He cuts it with one of the zero turns. That grass doesn't lay down. It still looks, that St. Augustine looks really nice. I mean, I haven't seen it in person, but on video it looks really good. So yeah. Okay, E-Dub is up next. He says, can you seed tall fescue and Bermuda together into to fill in shaded areas? I've never heard of that combination being done before, E-Dub. I would not if you have a shaded area of your lawn, I would do fescue. No, I would not do Bermuda. Bermuda is not going to grow in areas where there's a lot of shade. It's not worth even. I mean, it's not even worth trying it. It's just not gonna. It's not gonna do well. So if you have if you have a Bermuda lawn and Bermuda is not currently growing there, that is telling you that there's not enough sunlight for the grass, or it's not growing where it's really thin. That's telling you that there's not enough sunlight hitting that area for Bermuda to do well. So I would not waste your time trying to do grass seed or anything like that. The fescue, absolutely, give that a shot and see how it does. But Bermuda is not going to do well in shaded areas. It's just not going to happen. G Free's up next saying, "Hey everyone, thumbs up." What's up, G Free? Thanks for coming to hang out, sir. And then next up, Lavendi's here. He says, "Ron, I don't have any questions. Well, it's a busy work day. Just wanted to say hi. I'll drop you a line via email about your home Wi-Fi setup." Sure, I can. We can do that. I mean, I can. We can talk about Wi-Fi setups. I like it's a fun subject. I can give you some good tips on doing home Wi-Fi. Different different tiers depending on what you're trying to do, what your budget is, and what you're trying to accomplish. Absolutely, we can talk about that. And then Brick Rehab says trenches dug 18 inches deep. That should be deep enough. I mean, really, as long as you have a good 8 inches or so of material or of soil from the surface, then you should get a decent root system, and the grass should do fairly well. I mean, more is better, but 8 inches is that's a good number as far as not having an adverse effect from having stuff under the surface of the soil. Cedric G's up next. He says, "Hey, what's up, Big Ron? No questions tonight. Just pounded the like button. Thank you so much, Cedric. I really appreciate all the love and support." Next, we got Edwin. Edwin is saying, "Hey, Ron, the Tahoma is down in North Richland, Texas. Just got through cleaning up about an hour ago. Sent some pictures to share. Thanks for all your help. Now, should I spoon feed the lawn till it goes dormant? Thanks again. Hit that like button." Yeah, man. If it's growing, like once it starts getting established and you want to start feeding it, sure, absolutely. If it's still actively growing, feed the lawn. Let me see here what Edwin has shown. Let's see here. Let's see all his prep work. I'm trying to find a picture of the Tahoma. Cool. Yeah. Nice. Check this out here, guys. Let me see if I can show you guys really quick. And this is the work in progress. All right. So this is the work in progress. And looks pretty good. Looks like a ton of work. And then this is the finished result. Nice, Edwin. Looks like you guys did a pretty good job. It looks fairly smooth. Man. I will tell you this. I do see a top dress in your future. Just let's get that out of the way now. You're definitely going to top dress it. But given the prep work you guys have done, again, we can look at this again. Given all the prep work, it looks like you did a really good job. It shouldn't take much. It's not going to take much to get that looking really solid. I mean, the lawn already looks fairly smooth, and the grade looks really nice. I imagine that dude with a top dress, it's going to look beautiful. So next year, plan for that. Plan for a top dress next year, man. It's going to be solid. Yeah, and if where you are, I'm not sure where North Richland Hill, Texas is, but if that roots in and it begins growing, if you want to continue feeding it till it goes dormant, by all means, go light. Like, don't smack it with a ton of nitrogen. Like, go light on the levels. Like, the amount of N you put into it, like under like a half a pound or less. Like, just go light as far as N inputs. But yeah, if it's still growing where you are, then feel free to feed it. That's a general rule. And then Half says, at Steve Jackson. So he says Tahoma will choke out common or wild Bermuda. I'd be impressed. That'd be interesting to see that, because it's got to get really thick to be able to pull that trick off. I don't know if I am convinced on that one, Steve, but we'll see. We shall see. All right, Jake S is up next. He says, "Hey, I bought a Time Master in July, put only 10 hours on it, and it wouldn't pull start, so I took to the dealer, and it needs a new camshaft. Frustrating as heck. You heard of anyone else having an issue with a new Toro?" No, I haven't, Jake. I mean, Toros tend to be they tend to be pretty reliable mowers, and the Time Master is a decent mower from them, so I maybe just a freak event, maybe you just got a bad example. in other words, I've heard a couple things. One, I don't use a bunch of rotary mowers or get a lot of feedback from people with a bunch of rotary mowers to be able to tell you, but I've not. You are the first person that I have heard of or have reached out to me in all the years I've been doing YouTube with a Time Master that said they had a camshaft problem. So how's that for an answer? You're a sample of one. So I don't know that maybe that it's an issue or people just don't report it, but I would be inclined to think that it's not common. I mean, Toro tends to build pretty high quality equipment. So maybe, again, you just got a bad example, and I'm sure they're going to take care of it, and you should be good to go. So sorry you're dealing with that, and hopefully they get you all squared away, and then you have no problems going forward, right? Next up is Todd Gleaves. He says, better late than never. That is true. Predoming went down last weekend, followed by 3/4 of an inch of rain. Look at you, man. Look at your timing. Awesome. Sad to see it shutting down for the year. Ready to plan for next year. Well, a good thing that can help with your planning process, Todd, is get one of these. Get a soil test done. That'll let you know if you need to do any amendments, particularly lime, any kind of lime inputs, any kind of pH adjustments between now and next year. And then just enjoy it. Enjoy the time off, because next year will be here before you know it, and then you have to be out there working in the lawn, and you'll say, you know what, I really wish I had time off, and you didn't take this time now that you could have enjoyed that. So, the February, March will be here before you know it, and we'll be out working in the lawn, doing our thing once again. Okay, Two Trillo says, hey, Brandon Tucker, is the golf course in Georgia, and if you don't mind sharing, what is the name of the golf course? I'm not sure what Brandon's, so Brandon was the one that had the 5 mowers, the 5 Toro 2100s, that's the flex units that didn't have cutting heads for like $300. So yeah, if you know, feel free to drop it in the chat, Brandon. Yeah, it seems like some people are interested in those. All right, Todd Gleave says, Ron, if untreated, will spring dead spot, large patch, etc. return year after year? I think I may have had it in this past spring, and it has barely recovered as of now. Not sure if it's too late to treat now. So yes, so areas of your lawn where you've had disease problems before, you are more prone to have that again. In other words, like spring dead spot, the areas where I've had it, when it comes back in the same places. It's not like it shows up in other spots of the lawn. There's like 3 spots in my lawn where I've had it before, and when it comes back, it's in those same 3 spots. What I found is like this year, it was it was far less bad from doing a fungicide application in the fall. So that made it a believer out of me as far as preventing it. And so to answer your question is yes. If you've had lawn disease problems before, you are more prone to have that particular problem again in the same area again. So yes. And so far as the rest of your question, is it too late to treat now? No, you can still do a fungicide application now. I would do Headway, but really you can just do Zoxystrobin if you want to save some money. But Headway is a great product, and that's what I'm doing. I'm doing 2 apps, but I already did one in October, the beginning of October, and I'm gonna do another one early next month. So Headway G, we carry it in the golf course lawn store. We've got plenty of it in stock, and if you want to grab some, that is what I am using to help keep spring dead spot away. And to your point, the bad thing about spring dead spot is that, it shouldn't take this long to recover from it, but really you're not going to know until next year. So the lawn will wake up, it'll come out of dormancy, and then you'll have like these little pie-shaped sections in your lawn where it's going to be bare. It's going to be like there's nothing, like the grass just isn't growing, it's not coming in, and it eventually will fill in, but it's going to lag. It could be literally a month. It could be like the rest of your lawn literally could be filled in, green, vibrant, looking awesome, and you have these little discs in your lawn that look really ugly. And by the time you see it, there's not a whole lot you can do about it, unfortunately. Like you're just stuck with what you have. And then we have, let's see here, Steve Jackson is showing a picture of his lawn sprayed with Roundup. Ooh, so I guess it hasn't taken effect as yet, Steve, because it still looks pretty green to me. So this is Steve spraying his lawn with Roundup. I guess you just recently did it, because it still looks pretty solid, because it hasn't taken effect as yet. All right, next up we have Dazenberg. Let's say here, yeah, he says they are both simulating load while tuning. Good explanation on the curves. Yeah, that's the best way I can explain it to. Looks like you got what you got in there? The Subaru. I know which kind of car you have in your avatar. But yeah, they're both simulating load when tuning, but they're doing it in different ways. One can do like a fixed load, so like and one is like an inertia dyno. One is literally like trying to spin up this roller as quickly as you can, and it measures like based on how quickly your car can accelerate it. It does the calculation, says you've got this much horsepower and this much torque. Whereas like like an eddy dyno, that it's capable of applying a fixed load, and depending on how well the car or the engine can resist or can resist that load, it does its calculations and says this is how much horsepower, this is how much torque the car is making. And again, the curves between a dyno jet and like a Mustang dyno should be very similar. Like where the peak horsepower hits on a dyno jet should also be where peak horsepower hits on an eddy dyno. But the numbers are going to be different. They'll definitely be different. So, and here's the thing. It's a funny thing about this. It kind of bring it back to soil testing. Even among the same dynos, like if you take a dyno jet at one shop and then you go to a dyno jet at another shop, even though they're supposed to be corrected, they're going to measure differently. It's the same thing with like what's the really sweet dyno, the one the Australians, you see a lot of the Australian guys use. HP Factory uses one. It's like a nice all-wheel drive dyno. I forget the name of it. They're really expensive. But anyway, like the curves will be similar. The actual values will be different. And that's what I would expect to see among soil tests. So thanks, Dazenberg. I appreciate you chiming in. And then next up, we got Jim Carson. He says, different areas in the backyard. The sod I have worked on for 6 months with dirt work and hand pulling weeds. The other area is just wild with weeds and dirt and no lawn, doing a full renovation. Okay, so in the case of a full renovation, the cheapest way to go is glyphosate fusilade. Really, the glyphosate will work for the other weeds you mentioned, but glyphosate fusilade is far, like glyphosate by itself, is not, like a single application is unlikely to kill Bermuda. Glyphosate and fusilade, I've got a sample of two now. I've got my lawn, and I've also got the real rollers area, like their turf park areas that we sprayed with it, and it's devastating, man. Like glyphosate and fusilade, that combination, really, really good for killing Bermuda grass. So that's what I would go with for the renovation of the area that you don't really care, that it's all non-selective. Good stuff. And then Steve says, yes, Tacoma Bermuda sent you a pic of the lawn in email. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, the lawn looks awesome. I'm trying to understand. You said that you sprayed Roundup, but did you sprayed Roundup? You sprayed Roundup on your. Are you renovating this or what? I don't know. You have to give me more detail, man. Like put some more additional in the comments. What exactly? Like, why did you spray Roundup? Because you're trying to kill the lawn to get it ready for the Tacoma renovation for next year. I think that's what you're saying. I believe so. I believe that's what I'm reading from you. All right, and then Dalvin says, I was doing the triple 12 at 3 pounds per 1,000, and then Turfplex at 6 pounds per 1,000 spoon feeding. Okay, so let's do the math on this, Dalvin. So the triple 12 at 3 pounds per 1,000. So we take 3 pounds, and multiply that 0.12. That's 0.36 pounds of nitrogen. It's not a whole lot. And then if you apply Turfplex at 6 pounds per 1,000, that's another 1/10 of a pound of nitrogen. So if you did, let me think about this. If you did the triple 12 and the Turfplex twice per month, so you did the granular and the liquid, like both of them twice per month, that would be enough, because that's just under 0.8 of a pound. But if all you did was the triple 12 once per month, that's 0.36. And if you did the 6 ounces of Turfplex twice per month, so once on the 1st and once on the 15th, that's only another 0.2 pounds of nitrogen. So you're only putting in around half a pound of nitrogen, which isn't quite enough in other words, I'm not surprised that your levels, even if the lawn looked okay, I'm not surprised that the grass was slowly depleting the nitrogen levels in the lawn, because you're not really putting in, quite enough over the course of the growing season. So I think we cracked the cases why you saw a reduction in levels. So good stuff. Okay, Grass Thief is up next. He says, Ron, at what soil temps do you stop using biostimulants like RGS and liquid carbons? So my last one, I've already stopped with the carbon kit. I'm not spraying. My last one was beginning of this month. I have not sprayed NutriKelp or Release 901C or Biospectrum. The last one was in the beginning. It was like 10 days. It was the beginning of the month. It was the beginning of October. The only thing that I continue to do is granular. So I still do continue to do Essential G. So that's biochar and compost. I continue to do that every single month while throughout the entire time. That's not one that I only limit to whenever the grass is growing. So that the granulars I do, but the liquids I don't do. I don't do any more now. So again, there's not really any negative to continuing to do them, but you're just not getting the benefits. Because I mean, you think about it, the idea behind humic acids and a lot of the biostimulants, at least the liquids anyway, is that it's a faster way to help stimulate additional microbial activity, which is going to help with nutrient availability, which is going to help your grass perform better, right? And the microbial activity in your lawn is linked to the amount to soil temperature. So as the soil temps begin to cool off, and temps in general begin to cool off, like the soil activity begins to slow down, your grass begins to go dormant. So can you still spray RGS and other liquid biostimulants? Sure. Is it going to hurt anything? No. Are you going to get as much benefit out of it as you would if you did it at the beginning when the grass is actively growing or when temps are warmer? Not really. You know what I mean? So you can if you want, but there's not, in my opinion, there's not a ton of benefit, not a ton of reason or not a ton of benefit to doing it. Certainly not in November, December, January timeframe. If you want to continue doing it now through October and through November, fine. But really, January, January and December, those months when it's really cold and there's not a whole lot going on in the lawn and by extension the soil, there's just not a ton of reason, in my opinion, to do it. Like save the products until for next year. I mean, they're not that expensive, but why waste it unless you why waste it? I just wouldn't. I'm not doing it. So it's your call. Either way, you're not going to. I'll put you this way, Grass Thief. You are not going to hurt anything, but I am not convinced that you're really helping much by doing it. All right, next up is Todd Gleaves. He said, need to blanket spray or granule? It's just so much money to put down a fungicide on a big lawn. If you have a larger lawn, then liquids are going to be more cost effective. So a bag of Headway will do 20. Let me think about this. No, that's not true for Headway. I'm thinking about for Celiprin. A bag of Headway will do around 15,000 square feet at the rate that I like to apply it. So I'm not sure how big your lawn is, Todd Gleaves. So you might be able to get by with one bag, or you might need more than one, but figure 15,000 square feet thereabouts is what you can get out of a bag of Headway at a good rate, at a rate that's going to be a good preventative rate. So, and then based on that, as far as cheaper alternatives, you can get Headway in liquid. Like there's a you can buy it in a jug. So if your lawn is big enough, then going a liquid route is a way to go. You can buy azoxystrobin in liquid form, and you can spray that. So if your lawn is big enough, liquids begin to become more attractive than granulars. So it just depends on how much you're working with, and the cost per application with liquids tends to be a little bit less and make more sense as the size of the property goes up. All right, Harold says, "Dang man, I didn't make it because I was out of town." Well, we did have. Here's the thing, Harold. We had a chair. We had a chair sitting there, just with your name on it, and it just sat there all empty the entire time. Not really, but either way, man, dude, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen. I wouldn't, don't sweat it. I mean, I know that Real Rollers was very happy with the turnout. They liked the event, and it's going to happen again. So next time, just plan for next year and come on out. It went really well. It was a fun time. And then Bermuda says, "I will share my soil test with you, Ron. Thanks for everything." Cool, good stuff, man. I'll look out for it, sir. I will. I definitely like to see what you're looking at as far as your soil tests. All right, next up is Half. He says, "Hey, Ron, if you could speak on inoculants and micro packs from the golf course lawn store. I personally use Recharge, recommended by Doc, but I also use chicken feed. I know Daryl For Bermuda uses these too. So, okay, so we can talk about the biostimulants on the store. Sure, I can do that. So if you go to the golf course lawn store and you go to shop and then Miramichi Green, because this is where the biostimulant sections are. Okay, so we have them all combined in a kit, right? The golf course lawn carbon kit, which comes in two variants. You've got one that has release 0, one that has NutriKelp, and then one that has biospectrum. So let's talk about what each one of those are each individually. Release 0 is a 10% micronized carbon product. So what that is if you could take biochar and make it very, 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 very fine to where you could then spray it in liquid form on your lawn, 10% of that is what is in release 0. So as far as improving nutrient availability and nutrient uptake, that is the big thing, the big benefit of release 0. It's a catalyst and helps improve uptake regardless of what you mix it with. So if you have like a fertilizer, you can mix release 0 with it. If you're applying fertilizer, if you're applying fungicide, you're applying you can mix pretty much anything you want with that, and it's going to improve the effectiveness of the product. So I use that as a base, and I recommend release 0 for people that have a liquid fertilizer that they already like and still want to be able to use a biostimulant, right? So you still want the benefits of micronized carbon, but you want to use your own fertilizer. You don't want the Miramichi Green fertilizer, all right? So that is release 0. Next up, you got, actually just shown down here. Next up, you have NutriKelp, which is another component of the golf course lawn carbon kit. NutriKelp is a 24% kelp product, which again, the idea behind it is feeding, is helping the soil biology. It has 2% micronized carbon in it, so it's not as far as the amount of carbon you're putting in the soil, it's not nearly as much as release 0. But as far as a kelp product, which has a tons of benefits for your soil and then by extension your grass, that is why I use NutriKelp on my lawn as well. And then finally, you have biospectrum, which is straight microbial food. It's got healthy bacteria and food for bacteria that helps improve the volume of healthy bacteria and microbes in your soil. So the idea behind biospectrum, when I talked to the people at Miramichi Green, was that fungicides in general, right? We use fungicides to help keep lawn disease away, but they're really not that good for soil biology. Like doing fungicides on your lawn or applying them to your soil is really hard on the soil biology. So the idea behind biospectrum is this helps to restore, go back here. This helps to restore that soil biology. It helps to help jumpstart that. And then between release 0 and NutriKelp, you're helping maximize nutrient uptake. You're helping to really get more out of the products that you're applying to your lawn. So if you think about it, like the general rule for Bermuda is that a Bermuda lawn needs a pound of nitrogen or thereabouts per month, right? For the last few seasons, I've been applying much less than that. I apply around 0.8 of a pound, between 0.7 and 0.8 tenths of a pound throughout the growing season when the grass is actively growing, and it does absolutely great. And my soil test results reflect that that there's still plenty of nutrient available in the soil throughout the growing season. So that is the benefits of these three, which is why I combine them together. I work with Miramichi Green to combine the release 0 product, the kelp product, and the biospectrum product. Now, where does release 901C come into play? All 901C is release 0 with fertilizer in it. So in the case where people said that, hey, I don't have a fertilizer that I like, there's not one I'm in love with, I want to apply a fertilizer along with my biostimulant, that is where 901C comes in. So that's the only reason why Miramichi Green makes it. You're putting in 9% nitrogen, 1% potassium with it. So if you want something that can act as a product that can act as a biostimulant and liquid fertilizer at the same time, that's where 901C works. So the way that most people tend to use that suite of products is they will use release 0 along with a fertilizer of choice like Turfplex, NutriKelp, and then biospectrum, or they will use 901C, NutriKelp, and biospectrum as another way of doing it. I tend to also use mix Nutrizolve along with them as well because it's a micronutrient product. really the benefit of Turfplex is that because it already has some iron in it, you could technically get by without using Nutrizol if you didn't want to, right? Because it already has some iron and some manganese in it, but doesn't have the complete suite. So as far as what I did this year, if you're interested in what I'm doing, what I did this year, I did 901C, I did NutriKelp, and I did BioSpectrum. I also did Nutrizol, which is a micronutrient, along with PGR. So every time when I sprayed my lawn, all that was going down. So I had the biostimulant, the kelp product, and then the micronutrient, and then Primo went in the backpack sprayer each time. Because I spray that combination every couple of weeks, and I was testing out split feeding or split apps with PGR. So it made sense to mix it all with it. So there you go. Hopefully that helps, sir. Now, as far as the other things you're mentioning, I've never used chicken feed on my lawn, and I don't know what the micro pack is that you're talking to. So I talked about the microbial packages or biostimulants that I have on the Golf Course Lawn Store. I'm not familiar with the stuff that Doc is recommending to know how they work. So hope that helps. All right, next up is Morrow again, Xavi19. He says, as far as next week, if you want to take a break, go for it, Ron. Well, I appreciate that, sir. So you're telling me I can have the week off? I appreciate that, because if not, it's going to be probably Wednesday night. Probably Wednesday night if we're going to do a live stream next week. It's going to be either Wednesday night or I'm going to take the week off, because Friday night it'll be karate time. Karate time. People will be doing we'll be testing for black belt and then further degrees of black belt, which should be a fun time. Good stuff, right? All right, next is Steve. So he cleared it up for me. He says, yes, I'm killing out the current Bermuda so I can scrape it off, correct the slope, and then install Tahoma 31 sod. By doing it now, we'll speed up the renovation by 1 month. Nice. Friends think I'm crazy because I have the best lawn in the neighborhood. You know what? I'm not going to call you crazy, but I'm going to say, Steve, there's nothing wrong with that. That looks pretty good to me. That said, I get it. I mean, it's good, but you want it to be even better. And even if Tahoma 31 isn't that much better, it's just fun. It's like, it's like anything else. Once the lawn looks really awesome, it gets kind of boring, right? I mean, all you can do is mow it and spray it and make it look nice. But I mean, it's always nice to be trying new things and playing. And I get it, because with you now, when you do the Tahoma 31, that means you also get to top dress it again. You get to do, it opens up an entire catalog of fun things to be able to do on the lawn whenever you do a renovation. So I completely get it. Here's the thing. I'm kind of toying with the idea myself. Next year. I haven't, I don't know for sure that it's going to happen, but I am thinking about it. For next year. I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe Zoysia in the front on the slope. And then maybe something else in the back. I don't know. The only negative is that, I was out there mowing it today, and I was looking at it and I was saying, man, it's so smooth right now and looks so nice. It's like pool table flat. If I go and do a renovation, all that goes away. It's like starting over. I mean, it's not going to be like starting from scratch, but I've got at least 2 seasons of top dressing in me to get it looking like that again, right? So I don't know. It's a lot of work. I haven't decided if I'm really up for it yet, or just the mental anguish of it not being super smooth after the renovation. There is that, right? All right, David Polanco says, hey, Ron, is it still okay to slow down stress blend? San Antonio, Texas here. Yes, yeah. So stress blend, if you're still fertilizing this time of year because your grass isn't fully checked out yet, stress blend or the 0048 sulfate of potash product, either one of those are what I would go with. I would not use flagship this time of year. I mean, if you're in Florida where it's still hot and the grass is still growing, fine. But flagship or more of a higher concentration potassium product would be more what I would lean towards than like a high nitrogen product. Dua Rinsum says, do you sell Spectacle in your store? I didn't see it. No, we don't. But I want to double check. Do you recommend using Surfactant with pre-emergent? Thanks. We do not sell it, largely because it's a pretty expensive product, and I don't know how many. I mean, again, unless you are splitting it with a bunch of friends, or you have a really large property, for most people it doesn't make financial sense to buy it. You know what I mean? Yeah, like so that's why we don't sell it. And again, because it's expensive for it's a great product, but it's expensive. So that's why we don't carry it on the store. If you want to get it, you can get it. Yeah, see the price of it's gone up. If you want to get it, you can get it on Amazon. Like I'll give you a link here. If you feel like supporting the channel, here is a link to where you can pick it up at Doorism Spectacle Flow. You can pick it up there if you like supporting the channel, but you'll see the price of it. It's north of $300. It's an expensive product. And no, I do not mix surfactant whenever I do pre-emergence. Because if you think about it, like surfactant, like at least non-ionic surfactants anyway, the idea is that they make the herbicide more tacky. They help it stick to the plant leaf. And the idea behind pre-emergent is that you don't want it to stay on the leaf. You want it in the soil. So by mixing surfactant with it, you're kind of working against yourself. So you would not, I do not mix surfactant with pre-emergent herbicides. As a matter of fact, like even if you were going to do a combination where you're going to mix you're going to mix a pre-emergent and post-emergent. So take, for example, like Celsius and Certainty, right? Both of these work better when mixed with surfactant. But let's say you're doing a renovation, right? And you want to get pre-emergent down, and you also want to throw a bit of post-emergent herbicide in it as well, in the tank as well, to knock back some existing weeds. In that case, I still don't apply surfactant, because the way I look at it is that the timing of the effectiveness of pre-emergent is really based around soil temp. And given that I really want that to work well, because the window that I can apply it and get the best result out of it is somewhat limited, I optimize my application to favor the pre-emergent, because I can always come back later on and spray with these guys again along with surfactant. You know what I mean? So the answer to your question, no, I don't use surfactant whenever I spray pre-emergent. You'd be working against yourself if you were to do that. All right, SL Jones says, I live in Chicago and I want to know how late in the fall I can use fertilizers. Here's the thing, SL, as long as the grass is still actively growing and the ground's not frozen. From what I heard on the news, I think it was this morning or yesterday, you guys are getting like freezing weather in Chicago. So I think you're pretty much done for this year. I might be wrong on that, but I mean, if you guys are getting freezing temps and snow, there's no reason to continue fertilizing. You're done for this season. All right. David Hollinsworth says, in a past video, you said you may try Bermuda. I did. It says, would you consider overseeding a small area with Kentucky bluegrass to see how it does that far south? Probably not, David. I'm not a fan of overseeding. I mean, I'm not a fan of doing Bermuda, because I think the people that do that, they don't only overseed with it over the winter months, like they leave it in the lawn all year. And I'm not a fan of doing that because a couple of reasons. It makes using herbicides a pain, because like, what do you use, right? Like you could use blindside, you could use a couple, like the herbicides that you can really use on warm and cool season grass are that's safe for both of them is somewhat limited. The application rates sometimes vary between cool season and warm season grass. Take something like growth regulator, like the application rates for PGR between cool season and warm season grass are fairly different. So the application rates for pre-emergent between cool season and warm season grass are different. So I'm not a fan of mixing the two of them and having them grow the same time in the lawn. If you do that, you're gonna have to pick one that you're going to favor more than the other. And I just don't see the benefit. If anything, I can see the benefit of people that have the desire to overseed their lawn with perennial ryegrass in the fall, because they want their lawn to be green throughout the winter months, and then getting rid of that in the springtime. Because ryegrass, one, it germinates really quickly. It's relatively easy to grow. Like KBG, Kentucky bluegrass, is a little more challenging to grow from seed than rye. And it's just like, for me, I don't want to have two different grass types, especially two different grass types that are from that have different herbicide tolerances and all this kind of stuff. It's just a headache. And I guess the question would really be why? What am I gonna what's the upside for me? The negatives of doing that don't outweigh the negatives don't, or the positives don't outweigh the negatives of doing that. So that's why I'm trying to think if I've ever really considered doing that. I don't think I've ever said in a video that I'm going to do it, but at any rate, no, I'm not doing Kentucky bluegrass and Bermuda. If anything, if one year, not this year, maybe next year, if anything, I would overseed with ryegrass only in the fall months, and then I would get rid of it as soon as springtime rolls around. All right, I think our last comment for the evening is from Mr. Kevin Dow. He says, I sold my McLean and love the cut on the 11 blade Toro Greensmaster 1000. Well, congrats on that. We got to clap it up for you, Kevin. But here's the thing. I'm not surprised that you like it because the GM, the Greensmaster, is another tier. It's a next step up as far as quality of cut that you can expect to get compared to a McLean. So I'm not surprised you're getting a better cut with it. And congrats on the mower. It's an awesome bit of kit. Well, guys, gals, I think that is all we have for tonight. So again, if you guys are looking for soil tests, we carry them at the Golf Course Lawn Store. Be sure to check that out. Also, if you're looking to get your fall fungicide application in, we have Headway in stock and shipping now at the Golf Course Lawn Store as well. You can get both of these there. And I think that's all I have. I will wait to see what you guys say as far as in the comment section after the live stream is over. As far as what do you guys want to have a show the middle of next week? It'll probably be a shorter show in the middle of the week, Wednesday-ish or so. Or whether we skip a week and then we just come back on the week of the 24th. So I'll wait to see what you guys' thoughts are on the matter. Donna Hales chimes in. She says, hi, Ron. Zoysia, don't do it. I fight my neighbor's Zoysia in my Bermuda and, you leave me hanging, Donna. You got to give me the rest of it. Like, and what? And what? You got to tell us the rest. Now you got us wondering what else you're dealing with. You fight anyway. So I guess what you're saying is, oh, I got you saying the Zoysia. Don't do it. So don't mix the Zoysia and Bermuda. I got you. All right. So stick with Bermuda only. I feel you. I now I see what you're saying. Well, guys, gals, thanks again. I appreciate all the love and support. I will see you guys maybe next week, if not the week of the 24th. Get out there, have fun, watch some football, enjoy this slow part of the year, and I will see you guys next time. Have an amazing weekend.